Fire for your mind. The Kosher Clinician. Hit that like button and share this stream if you're not a beta male. Greetings. This is another topic of the Kosher Clinician that might be sensitive to some viewers. If you are sensitive to the topic at hand or the title provided in the show, please proceed with caution. You have been warned. Viewer discretion is advised.
Life destroying your self-esteem and masculinity. Here's why this form of mental abuse never works.
Happy wife, happy life. It sounds noble, but men, let's be real. This mantra was never about love. It became a strategy to avoid confrontation. Keep her happy, keep her quiet, and keep the peace. But peace built on silence isn't peace at all. It's avoidance. And you can only sweep so much under the rug before you trip over it. In my new book, The Man the Moment Demands, I expose why this misleading mantra fails both men and women. It puts the wife on a pedestal as the better half while reducing the husband to a servant. The honey-do list becomes his identity. Intimacy becomes his reward for his compliance, and then resentment builds in his heart as nothing ever seems to be good enough. Men, passive-aggressively allowing your wife to always have her way doesn't create peace. It creates an illusion of it. And before you know it, your marriage is a mirage.
Happy wife, happy life is abusing power. And I love something you said on Tanner's show. You know, we used the slave narratives about women being trapped in relationships in the past. Well, guess what? I love what you said. Men are trapped in relationships now. And so if they really believe in relationship equality, then you should be actively fighting for the same justice for men, just like you're fighting for the justice of women. But you really don't believe in equality. You believe in selective equality, and equality only when it's symmetrical to what women want. And that's why these conversations never have any balance or any hearsay, because it's a one-sided argument, or where the man's masculinity got to be shaped in her pedagogical worldview based on her liberal indoctrination in school and based on her undisciplined emotions as it relates to being a woman.
Should women submit to men?
No.
Women should not submit to men?
No.
Okay. Are you Christian?
Yes.
Okay. Do you agree with her on those things?
To some extent, I believe like submitting should be 50-50.
And then what do you think?
Literally the same thing that she said.
But you're all Christians?
Yes.
Are you Catholic?
No, just Protestant.
Protestant, Catholic. It's funny because I'm agnostic and I go harder for Christianity than actual Christians do. You don't believe in submission. You don't believe in submission. This is completely incoherent and contradictory to your own worldview that you claim to be a part of, your own perspective. You claim to be Christians. Ephesians 5:22, wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as you do to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church. Now as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit to their husbands.
Fire for your mind. The Kosher Clinician.
If it ain't seven, it ain't kosher. Heaven and hell, that's what they told you. Real men put the strap down and we can toss them. Young heads picking back up and young dolphins. This is our culture. Now we talking kosher. Clinician, masculinity issues. Absent fathers who miss you. Mama drama don't kiss you. All a part of the ritual. This is how they get you. Separate the men, women, clipping babies pretend to. Damn. Lovers, haters, acting like vultures. If it ain't seven, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. If it ain't seven, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. If it ain't seven, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. Listen. Listen.
You guys hear me? If you can hear me, hit one. I don't know what's going on. Hold on, guys. If y'all can hear me, hit one. Got my man, brother Donald out. JD, it's a pleasure to hear from you, man. Can you hear me, sir? You hear me? Unmute yourself, JD. Unmute yourself, brother. You muted. All right, so I got my man JT in the house, guys. We're gonna get into it. I don't know what's wrong with the sound. Testing, testing.
You kind of low.
I'm low.
Yeah.
Testing, testing.
A little bit higher. You still kind of low.
How about now?
I can hear you a little bit. Let me make sure my mic is not too much higher than yours.
What I'm gonna do?
Okay, there you go.
I'm having issues with my soundboard, man. Don't worry about it. I'm just gonna do it this way. All right. So listen, man, it's a pleasure to see you, man. You know, it's good to have a Gen X brother in the house. And I call it grown man conversation, you know. Call it grown man conversation because a lot of these young folks don't understand Gen X, you know. I will argue, brother JT. And guys, go support JT at the What We Know podcast. Put your link down, brother JT, in the bottom. But I will argue, man, that Gen X was the last generation of balance. A lot of Gen X men, we got it from the mud. We had to figure things out. We were the latchkey kids. We were the figure out generation. We had the benefits of having old school, and we had the benefits of having new school going into newer school. And I decided to do this conversation, I'm JT, for a myriad of reasons. I decided to do it because you were on the Black Man Unfiltered channel, and I was highly impressed with you and Brother D.L. Saint, as you guys were talking about, especially you, because I told D.L. Saint I wanted to chop it up with you, but you were talking about how many times of the past, Black men of that generation were often truncated as being, I guess, aggressive and bad, and hoarding money, and the women were, barefoot, they have a say. Why were you so passionate about that statement? We're gonna bring it up in a minute, but why were you so passionate about that statement? That's number one. And then number two, what do you remember about the stories that you heard from your grandparents about how Black men of that generation responded in general?
Okay, so the first one that you said, restate that so I can answer it correctly.
Yeah. So I was asking you the question. You and I both are from Gen X. And many times the stories of the past, I guess for the last 60 years, have always been truncated in Black men being adversarial to Black women.
Mm.
They only have to rely on Black men because, they were in survival mode. And so the things that you said was that impressed me the most. Let me make sure I give nuance to it, or give credence to it. Number one, why were you so passionate about defending the position that Black men of that generation weren't all bad based on these trauma narratives? That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
And then number two, what did you hear about Black men of your generation from that time growing up in Michigan?
So yeah, one of the reasons why is because I've always been around those, from great grandfather, grandfathers, grandmothers, great aunts, great uncles. I've seen, how the women and the men actually, they pretty much mix together, right? So you had where, you had some relationships, they were kind of, tumultuous,
right?
But they always worked it out. But you also had the other relationships that also were pretty much, they figured out how to work in harmony with each other. Right. It just took time for each and every one. One of the greatest things I had in front of me was to be able to spend time with my great grandmother, great grandfather.
Yes, sir. Right.
So, and so I saw them, the way that they meshed, because when I got a chance to see them, they were already, well past being senior citizens. Mm-hmm. But I saw their kids, which was my grandmother and great uncles, and I saw how that generation worked. And then from there, my parents' generation, which is the baby boomers, I saw how they worked. And so when I see the narrative that was out here that, most men during those times were toxic and all these things, I'm like, no, that's not necessarily true. That's, especially as a whole, it's not true. It's not true, especially if you have never lived during those times. So if you, 32 below and you're saying these things, you don't know. You just taking talking points from social media, so that's, that's where I was on that standpoint. Second one was what?
Come on, man. I'm old, man. I can't remember everything I said.
I'm old too.
So, man, what was the second question I asked you?
I mean, we can, because it all come through with one another.
Well, I think I asked you, JT, what do you remember about Gen X and the 90s and this current notion that you and I have been hearing the Black man won't itch for the last 60 years. I ain't had nothing to do with that. Yeah. We've been hearing for the last 60 years. Before we get into it, shout out to LC Cheapo. That's for you, for the $5 supporting What We Know podcast. Shout out to her. And shout out to Coach Ferd, JT, Gen X Strong. Shout out to your sister for that. But you and I are Gen X, and we've heard this toxic narrative for years about men ain't ish. Granddaddy was cheating on grandmama. The only reason why Black men were with Black women is because of survival mode. And I would challenge this by saying this, brother JT. And listen, if a generation of women were only with the Black men of that generation because they were survival mode, then it tells me that they were not dedicated to duty and they were not loyal. There was a group, JT, back in the day, it was called LTD. It was called Love, Together, and Devotion. You remember that?
Yes.
So you see, y'all young folks don't know about that. See, they'll know about that, JT. Yeah. And they call it Love, Together, and Devotion. And it don't mean that there was a partition of Black men of that generation that were very onerous in their behavior towards women. It happened. Let me be honest. I saw it in my family. My granddaddy was, he was knocking them down. I think my uncles were too. Some of them were. But watch this. The woman that he was messing with was also a married woman. And she would ride in the car with my grandmama, and she knew my grandmama was married to him. But why is there not some condemnation for what she did? So my point is, we always truncate men in that generation that has either been toxic, they abuse the women. And let me be real clear. That position is not just endemic to Black men. depending on your demographic, like if you grew up in West Virginia or in the rural South, or you grew up in an area where people were poor and impoverished, those behaviors were not just endemic to black men, it was endemic to other ethnic groups as well. Black men were not the card-carrying, trauma flag boat bearers hurting and oppressing black women. We weren't. A lot of black men of that generation, and you correct me if I'm wrong, JT, I remember those men worked like dogs that came home and gave their wives the check. But we don't talk about that. Talk to me if I'm wrong. I want you to educate me if I'm wrong, because I'm a licensed clinical therapist. I believe that everything needs to be added to nuance. And psychologically, when you keep telling these trauma narratives, not saying it didn't happen, I'm not saying that I don't feel sorry for the women that went through it, including my grandmom, I believe, went through it. But we got to stop perpetuating these slave trauma narratives and always talking about what black men of that generation did, because what it does is making you pay for something that you had nothing to do with. It's making me pay for something that I had nothing to do with. And what it's perpetuating is happy wife, happy life.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you? Go ahead.
It does. So that was that generation. So silent generation and generation baby boomers, they had this. It wasn't a lot of men that were saying happy wife, happy life. Let's be honest. That was a narrative that most men spoke to. Most men, they actually say, listen, you don't have to argue with your woman if you are the man of the house over little stuff. You have to find, and this is the thing. The reason why we had so many love songs, and
I like that. I was going to bring that up. Good job.
Yeah,
go ahead. Good job.
Because of the inspiration. It was the inspiration. Even if you notice, the men that were singing these love songs, they had issues in their marriage. Why?
Right.
Because they were entertainers.
Right.
They were singers. They had access to women. However, the message was what it was for us.
Right.
So when you had men that were trying to get a woman to understand what he was trying to convey to her, what would he do? He would play these songs.
Right.
It was like a soundtrack to, what this man really feel. If he couldn't put it in psalm himself, but that's how he felt, he'd play these songs.
We'll play the songs, right.
Right. But the happy wife, happy life, you had a subsect of men that were saying that.
Right.
But for the most part, you had men that were taking care of their household. No matter what the nuances was in their relationship, they still were taking care of their house. So if them and their wife was having issues, one thing that was always taught was that the bill still got to be paid.
Right.
That was the message that they were giving our generation anyway. Them bills still got to be paid. Don't mess up your household because you guys are having an argument. This is a moment that you have. Now, this is a subset of men that gave us that message. However, it was, again, it was the nuances that we had to deal with. I was fortunate enough to be around and be raised with a mother and a father in my life.
Same here.
All the way until my father passed away 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm. My mom died last year, man, in May.
Yeah. So to be able to witness and have a front seat and be the beneficiary of a household that was running with structure, that was something that I actually understood. I was one of those kids that at 6 o'clock I had to be in the house because I got to eat.
Right.
I had to make sure my homework was tightened up. I had to make sure everything was together. If it was on a Sunday, Monday was coming. So I had to be in the house at a certain time because there was structure. I was myself, a lot of guys in my neighborhood, they used to talk crap about me. You got the wholesome house. Because my father, he'd tell me in a minute, it's time for you to come in the house. I'm out here playing with my friends, and they'd be like, you got to come in. And they were making fun of me for having structure in my house. That was just what it was. Mm-hmm. But they didn't have that same structure.
Right.
So that was one of the things where I was just a beneficiary for that. So when I got to the point of getting ready to be married and all these different things, those were the things I took with me. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But when it comes down to the narrative that men that came before me were just, you know, they wasn't shit. That was crazy to me.
that was crazy. That was crazy, man. And listen, we're not saying it didn't happen, but when you paint this broad stroke, like all the men of that generation were morally obtuse, all the men of that generation were beating their women or having outside kids. I take great offense to that because you're not giving nuance to the conversation. And what it's doing is it's painting this narrative that black men can't be trusted. And so many times, JT, people make a false assumption, in my opinion, that the manosphere is similar to feminism. And listen, you know, I'm more of an adjacent. Are there some radicals in all groups? Yes. Fresh and Fit is not manosphere. What's his name? Andrew Tate is not manosphere. They often get associated with it. And anytime men have any talking points that are symmetrical to relationships when we speak out against it, it's a problem. But for the last almost 60 years, I would say, because you and I, well maybe not 60, that's maybe the last 50. We've been under the microscope. This is the first time in human history when black men have come together, consistent with Dr. Irvin Yalom. When you look at group therapy, I call it cyber group therapy, begin to have these conversations. Now, some will say, oh, he's not a therapist because, you know, I'm just raw. I'm kosher. You know, I don't talk in the nomenclature of my profession when I'm on these podcasts. I'm talking like a man. So if I don't, you know, talk with a soft voice and, you know, talk, you know, low and be understanding, then I'm not a therapist. I'm a comprehensive therapist. I'm a masculine therapist. I speak on the issues that are germane to black men and traditional black women. That's what I speak on. But I think, Brother DL, we've never heard black men speak truth to power without getting permission from the women in our group to speak it in a way that they never heard it. And then when they do hear it, they're not used to it. And so I'm a licensed therapist. I went to UNC Chapel Hill. That's where I got my master's from. I got my bachelor's from North Carolina Central. Got my associate, my license. I taught school. One of the reasons I got into Carolina because they were impressed with my background, and I got my other degree in law enforcement. So I've always been an advocate for black boys, men, white men, and men in general. And also I'm an advocate because I see the struggles that men go through. So we live in a world, JT, where, and I'm sure you've seen it. Anytime black men tell their stories, we got to tell it at the approval of the women in our group. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, you have a lot of men that will speak pretty much from a woman-centric lens. And one of the reasons is because they don't want to be I guess they don't want to be scrutinized.
Don't want to be scrutinized, right?
It's slowly getting to a point where women and men are being able to not be so sensitive to speech, but they are more, I guess women would be, from what I'm starting to gather, now women are starting to be more intent on how they're listening to men. But that takes, right now, from what I see, it just takes some points of, it has to be painful. These painful points that we have where you have women and men being very tumultuous towards each other, you have to get those knocked out of the way, right? Because once women start to hear men a lot more, men start to hear women a lot more, we start to be able to talk with one another, we would start seeing where the boundaries are, right? Because what will happen is someone will, they will hear something that they don't like, they're sensitive to it, and next thing you know, we're calling each other names, or we're being, you know, so that's one of the things that I'm starting to see. Gradually, we're getting there. We're just not there yet. I mean, that's just where we at right now.
Well, listen, some that hear the voice of masculinity will hear it and they will listen and they will become better women. Unfortunately, I don't think it's the masses. I think too many years of liberal indoctrination, too much getting the wrong information. They've done studies that say that a lot of women are more depressed now than ever any other generation because they've lost their divine purpose. And their divine purpose was not to get an education. I'm not against a woman getting a career. Don't get me wrong. I'm not against a woman getting higher education. There's some brilliant women. They have added to the human existence. Let me be very clear on that. But I think for many, the reason why they are so depressed is because their first place was not their career, but their first place was to bear the seed of their husband and build a legacy and get their career afterwards, or getting their career as they're in school. And I think that's why a large partition is upset. And then on top of that too, Brother JT, if you tell the truth on YouTube, now listen, if I wanted to, I could make a lot of money on YouTube by lying and being PC and saying what people want me to say, and using my degrees to put all the blame on men like some of these men do. But I see the pain that men go through. I see the brokenness that they go through. I see that they can't speak out. It will never be me. I'm not going to live my life under the control of a man or a woman, but I'm definitely not going to do it under a woman. My woman's not going to tell me how to be a man. My masculinity is not determined by how she perceives it based on her fears that I'm going to abuse power. Because see, a lot of these slave trauma narratives is a concept I created, Brother JT, called trauma by proxy, or vicarious trauma by proxy. That vicarious trauma by proxy means she lives in approximation to the trauma stories that she heard her grandmom say, and every man she sees, she don't see that man through the lens of case-by-case examination. She see that man through the lens of trauma. And so when people hear me talk, because I don't talk like they think I should talk, or conduct myself based on how they think a therapist should act, which is stupid. Well, he's not a therapist. Well, I'm highly educated. I'm more educated than most. But at the end of the day, when they hear the story, they're not used to it because they've never heard what men have to say. And here's the problem with this, Brother JT. Men need to start speaking up. Like what you and I are doing. Men need to start telling the story and start speaking up unapologetically. Some of it is the men's fault, but then some of it is not their fault, because most men now are raised in homes where they don't have masculine leadership, or men in general. Before we get into it, shout out to my man Gregory Scotland for that $20 super chat. Brother Gregory said, salute kosher. Many of us boomer men were blamed for producing baby mamas. And that was a small group of black men that did that, but those women refused to take responsibility for their choices. What would you say about that, brother JT?
I mean, you can look at it from both lenses, right? So so he's saying many of us boomer men were blamed for producing baby mamas. This is the thing. No, there was not even a term called baby mama. One of the things I've also understood was that we have a problem with the transition. Like, a lot of people don't know the nuances from the transition of polygamy and monogamy. And one of the things that I'm starting to see is that when you have, think about it with boomers, their parents were anywhere from 16 to 30 years older than them, right? So when you actually look at it, when you start seeing this whole thing of baby mama, this was something that was created in the late 80s to 90s.
Right. I think what he's saying is that you're right. I agree with you, JT. I think what Gregory was saying, you're 100% correct. But I think what Gregory was saying is that he's using the terminology of baby mamas, baby daddies. But what should be said that, having a bunch of outside kids. But I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, you wouldn't. Yeah, so the responsibility that, no, they're not about to take on responsibility and accountability for having a bunch of children and all these things, because society wouldn't allow that, right? That's why when they were saying that this whole thing of you could talk about a person's dad and they be like, my daddy, you talk about their mama, you might have to die for that.
Right. I love that. That is so true. And that proves a point that we have not historically honored and venerated men. I'm going to prove another point to that. You notice a lot of times, JT, they don't say honor thy father and thy mother, which is biblically correct. They say honor thy mother and thy father. Mm-hmm. And honor thy mother and thy father is not the right enunciation. It's the right grammatical phraseology. Is really honor thy father and thy mother, because the Bible was always a Bible of patriarchs, where the patriarchs led the home and they led their community. And so when I hear these narratives about men of that generation not taking care of their families, also I will argue, JT, that we don't give men of that generation grace due to the trauma that they went through. A lot of men back then were dealing with trauma for Jim Crow racism. It don't justify the abandonment of the wife. It don't justify, but it adds nuance to it. It don't justify them having children out of wedlock. But we don't give them the same level of grace that we give the women. What's your take on that?
Yeah. One of the reasons being is because during that time, especially with the boomers, a lot of people don't even understand what boomer actually mean. I mean, it was a lot that was a lot of them. If you ever, like a lot of people, if you don't know your parents or your grandparents, that was a boomer. And if you don't understand, they got 8, 9 siblings. It was a lot of them. Right. However, during that time of them becoming adults, a lot of them went to war. A whole bunch of them went to war. And then you got to understand, too, that there was a migrate from the South to the North. And that played a big part, too, because one of the things was that once they got to 1960s, a lot of these folks especially the ones that didn't go to war, they ended up making a lot of money. Detroit, Denver, Chicago, because the auto plants. So a lot of these folks ended up started being more of middle class. They got a chance to buy homes and things like that. So what I'm saying is that society started to be a lot more easier for them. However, what was hard was because now you have people making their life is a lot more easier, and women, even with them, their lives start being more easier too, especially during that time, Vietnam time, because guess what? They were working in the plants also. So they were making money also. And then it slowly got to the point of, I don't need a man now because I can do the same thing that you're doing. Right. And it just slowly got to where we're at now.
Right. I love that. And you know what I love about what you just said, JT? I've heard people say that when black men or men in general make money, the hardworking traditional men, they don't use the money for themselves. They use the money for their families. And the more money they make, the more they try to use the money for their families and their communities. But a lot of women, white or black, it doesn't matter the color. And I think it's just part of a woman's nature. Women tend to be more insular. They tend to be more solipsistic. And they tend to be more selfish. They don't do what's best for the black collective. They do what's best for them. When the more money they make, they don't go back and talk about this build for the black community, build families and build that. No. They build themselves. And so to me, that lets me know that when people talk about love together and devotion and black family and black community, you can't have a black community until you consent with a black man and ask him what he wants. The world has never asked men what they want, white men or black men, but especially black men. We never really ask men what they want. They don't even know what men want. Most don't even care about what men want. They just assume that, we'll give them some sex, and that's enough. And no, we need more than this sex, man. And so many are hoping for a better tomorrow. Many are hoping that things will get back to normalcy, but you can't have normalcy without respect of the black man. I don't think you can have normalcy without having a fear of God. And so systems theory says that the part is not greater than the whole. That's what system theory say. Many times with a lot of women in the West, they think their part is greater than the whole. And because they think their part is greater than the whole, many times what it does, JT, it greatly disrupts what people are trying to build. To the point, I will argue that a lot of men have just checked out. They're just indifferent. They don't care as much. I'm going to show you a stat real quick as we get into this conversation about happy wife, happy life. But before we get into it, shout out to my man, Ray Johnson. That's my dog. Ray always showing love. As Ray is the #1 sponsor of the stream for that $30 cash app. Shout out to my boy, Ray Johnson, for that $30 cash app.
It's the money.
Shout out to Brother Ray Johnson for the 30. Now, it goes back to what I was saying, Brother JT. I don't believe we can have a greater union until we begin to exonerate the black man. Let me show you something. I want you to tell me what you think about this. All right. Can you read that?
Yeah. New global research shows that almost 1/3 of Gen Z men believe a wife should obey her husband. As a husband, you should have the final say on all major decisions.
Right. And shout out to my man Ray Johnson. He actually sent me that. Shout out to Ray and to all the people that listen to my channel. If there are selling topics that you want to talk about, send me articles and I will review the articles during the show, and I'll create shows specifically for you. But the fact, brother JT, that only 1/3 of Gen Z women believe a wife should obey her husband is problematic. Let's look at what you remember from your grandparents and your great-grandparents back in Detroit and in Michigan. Would you say that those women were more loyal or more dedicated to following what the granddaddy said compared to the generation now? And tell me what you saw back then compared to what you see now in relationship dynamics. Tell me what you see that was different, radically different.
Okay, so let me say my great-grandparents, and I got a reason why. My great-grandparents, my great-grandmother, you know, she always said that my great-grandfather's word was final. She had a different way on how she looked at being with my great-grandfather. However, her kids, my grandmother, she started out that way with my grandfather, but after 25 years, they ended up getting a divorce.
Oh, wow.
And they both got remarried. And with my grandmother, she stayed with her husband for another, I guess, 40 years until she died, because she died first. But this was the craziest part. He was nothing like my grandfather, my biological grandfather. Almost totally opposite. My biological grandfather, for one, he and my grandmother had all 10 of her children. And he was very stern.
Right.
That household ran like clockwork, right? And there was a certain type of, I can say, fear from his kids that he showed throughout their, marriage. And my uncles and my aunties and my mom growing up, they seen a difference in my grandmother. With her last 2 children or last 3 children, she was more of trying to protect them from their father, if that makes any sense. She was making money. She was going to work. She was doing all these different things. However, she did not like the way my grandfather was running a household. At some point, it changed for her. They ended up getting a divorce. She had a man that she ended up, and I love him to death because I still consider him my grandfather too, rest in peace.
Right.
But he had issues. He was an alcoholic. He was very passive. He did whatever it was that she demanded him to do. And she was comfortable with that until the part where he gets drunk, he passes out, all these different things that she did that she never had to worry about with my grandfather. And she knew, I guess, within probably about 3 years of her marriage with that man that she messed up. Because I used to hear them argue. And one of the things she used to always bring up was, I shouldn't have never left my last, I'm not going to say his name, but I should have never left him.
Yes, sir. Right.
He had structure. He wasn't necessarily like, he's still, to this day, he's still living.
How old is he?
99 years old. Next, in September, he'll be 100.
Oh, yes, sir. That's a blessing, man. That's a blessing. Right.
He also got remarried. Different was, he was the stepfather to his second wife's kids. However, he was way more structured. He showed something a little bit different to them because he was just not the man that, would deal with disrespect or anything. So his second wife, she got a chance to get what my grandmother had, but didn't want. And she stayed with him until, guess what? She passed away, my grandfather. And he talks about that a lot. So I got a chance to witness both sides of that. And it was crazy because when I seen what my grandmother had to deal with, and then I seen her being a mother to my mom and all the rest of my mother's siblings and things like that. And they ended up having a lot of issues in their relationships. My mom was the only one out of 10 that ended up having a husband. No, I take that back. Her and the oldest, my oldest uncle, they ended up having a marriage until someone passed away. Now, my other uncle, that was his second wife. My mom, she was 18 years old. She got married and she was off the market.
Right.
All the way until she died to this day. It's a difference. And I hear her talk about, her mom and the relationship, because they did not respect her second husband. My grandmother's second husband did not respect him.
Right. And I love that you're bringing that out, because your story sounds probably more normalized than this tired slave trauma narrative of that generation that black men were just, beating women and having outside kids. You never hear people add balance to it. It's always through a negative lens. And the fact that you saw that, like my dad worked like a dog, treated my mama like gold. And I didn't know a lot of men that were doing that. I'm not saying it didn't happen. But my point is, as I said earlier in this show, those men weren't having intimacy with those women by themselves. Some of them women, or a lot of those women, knew that man had a husband or wife. Because sometimes it was right up the street. My granddaddy, when he was doing his dirt, it was a woman up the street. She was a married woman. Yeah. But why don't we give the woman the same level of condemnation that we give the man? Well, it's simple. We gotta keep telling this trauma narrative, because it's power and victimization. It's not to minimize those women's stories, but I'm tired of people denigrating black men of that generation without giving credence and nuance to why they were doing it. Because a lot of it also, JT, was trauma responses, because we didn't have a word for it back then. But a lot of it, in my mind, and based on my clinical training, was post-traumatic stress, especially growing up in the Jim Crow South. So the way men of that generation would cope, they would either isolate, they would either abandon their wives and their kids. Sometimes they would have intimacy with other women as a way to cope, but it was maladaptive coping. Sometimes they would drink alcohol. Yes. But those men of that generation worked like a dog a lot of times for their families. And many times, JT, they were not given the levity to be seen as men. They were seen as boys. But we don't give men of that generation any dignity. We just assume by default those men were bad. And we continue to talk these slave trauma narratives even now, even with you and me. You and me had nothing to do with that generation. Absolutely. But men of this generation are still getting blamed for it. Men of this generation still got to always overperform, because women now say, well, women make money too, and so we don't need y'all for survival. Well, guess what? That proves to me that you never loved black men in general. Because watch this, JT. If she only loved you based on your ability to provide, if you lost all your money, did she still love you? If she only loved you based on your ability to provide, when things got tough, did she still love you? So if that's the case, then let's reverse it and let's see what men say. Let men say, well, I'm making more money now. I don't need you to cook anymore because I can get focus factor. I don't need you for your beauty because your beauty is gone, so I can get me somebody younger. You ever notice that black men tend to stay loyal to duty, but they stay loyal to themselves? Shout out to my man Greg. He said, Coach, you are actually speaking of the greatest generation. Those were born between 1900 and 1920. Yeah, my dad was the silent generation, the greatest generation, no doubt. You're right, Gregory. And that's probably what your grandfather is, JT.
My great-grandfather, my great-grandfather was born in 1907.
1907.
My grandfather was born in 1928. Yeah.
28. Yep. My granddad was born in My granddad was born in 1912. My dad is still living right now. He's 83. Gregory said, as a boomer, I'm going to defend Gen Z to some degree. For one, they are more willing to accept save yourself black man, right? Passport bros, MGTOW, and less willing to be a stepdaddy. Yeah. And Gregory is correct, because men of that generation didn't really mind being stepdads. But I will argue that women of that generation, in my opinion, JT, were better than the baby mamas or the single or women of this generation. Getting a woman that had a child back then, a lot of times that woman was a widow. Or a lot of times that woman, if she got a man, she was honored to have a man to take her and her kids on, because she understood that having a baby out of wedlock was, she was seen as a pariah. Am I right or wrong? If a woman had a child out of wedlock back in the day, she was seen as a pariah. When you and I were in high school back in the 90s, if a woman, back in the 90s, there was a lot of teen pregnancies. But if a woman had a kid out of wedlock, JT, back in the 90s, that woman was a pariah to her community. Most men weren't checking for women that had kids back in the day. I know I wasn't.
Right.
I remember a lot of girls that like me, I used to tell them I wasn't trying to hurt their feelings. I don't talk to women that got kids. Because to me, that was beneath me. But now we try to condition black men to take that kind of responsibility and that baggage. And what happens a lot of times, Brother JT, the men in that generation, they never get the respect and the dignity. They always are seen as a lesser than option. I would never be in a relationship where I got to pay all bills, which I'm not doing that anyway because most don't deserve it. Take care of somebody else's kids. They're not my blood kids. And then you expect me to pay bills, but you tell me I can't discipline the child. Men of that generation could discipline the children. Am I right or wrong?
No, you're absolutely right, because that's a thing that I've witnessed, right? Wasn't it my own? It's not my own anecdotal because I've always had my dad, but I've had cousins where their mom singled, had a child or two, and that man that comes in and takes on that family, he was a man, though.
He was a man.
It's two of them right now. I got in my mind right now in my family. I've always considered them uncle because when they came in, they literally took over the family. And my cousin and them respected them as men. That was just how that was. It wasn't some man that was auxiliary to that family. It was a man that came in there and said, I'm taking them on. One of the things that my aunties always did, and this is on my father's side of the family, they've always looked at my father as the authority. And some of his sisters were older, but they still looked at him as being the authority. One of the reasons is because my grandmother, she did it right the first time, right? She married, and this is my father's mom now that I'm talking about. She married a man, God-fearing man. Matter of fact, he was a minister in Tennessee, Memphis, Tennessee. She had 5 kids from him. And just with the point that you have made, he died, right? He died, had a heart attack, and he was young too. I think he was like 36. Car accident and a heart attack at the same time. She was in the car with him and everything. She left and she was trying to find that same thing here in Detroit. She was trying to find that same thing. You know, she never found it again.
Never found it again, right?
My father had to look at his mom dating other men, right? And having children by other men. That ruined him when it came down to it. Because he always had to go and save his mom, right? Plus, she kept having kids, so he's taking care of the family as the man of the house.
That's called parentification. Actually, it's called adultification and parentification. And in the clinical, we call it enmeshment. They don't have an identity. The lines are blurred. We call it diffuse boundaries. And that's what happens a lot of times to a lot of black boys. And it goes back, JT, to what I was saying about the ego defense mechanism called introjection. Men tend to see everything through the lens of their mothers and the women, and therefore they don't see themselves as having any inherent worth, which in essence means that they minimize their masculinity for the sake of everybody else. And that's why I'm so passionate about these conversations, because no one ever take the time to add nuance. And it's dangerous because this ties into happy wife, happy life, JT. You see where it's tied to happy wife, happy life. Introjection, parentification, spousalification, adultification, all that leads to happy wife, because I got to do things that make my woman happy because I got to also make mama happy. And therefore the lines are not clear. And what I've learned and hearing men tell me and talk to me in therapy, it's never enough, JT. It's never enough. You can give them the world. You can give them the new kitchen that you want. It's not enough. And what I have learned is that when men start saying no, and when men start saying, listen, you can go. That's when it gets better, when men start raising the standard and saying, I'm going to be the leader in this relationship. If you can't respect me, fine. Just like I know men that tell me, JT, that their women don't give them intimacy. They use stuff like my head is hurting. We know that can happen. But your head won't hurt them when Day was hitting them from the back in college. Your head won't hurt them when you were giving your body to copious amounts of men before you got married. But your head hurting now because you don't value that man like you value those other men. You got married, you married that man because he was safe and you were trying to hit a jumper at the buzzer. You didn't value him like the other men. And I tell men when they start closing their legs, I've heard women say, well, I'm married and so it's my body. Using that old liberal nonsense, close your wallet. When she said, can you pay this bill? My wallet hurts. Can you help me? Yeah, my wallet hurts. Can you get me something for Valentine's Day? No, Cupid said the arrows are at an all-time high, and it's inflation, so I can't buy no more arrows. Because Cupid said all arrows are too high because of inflation. Can you go downstairs and get take care of what's going on downstairs? No, I can't do it because my fingers hurt, my head hurt. I'm sorry. And so it's a manipulation strategy, and what it does, it holds men hostage, because they always said the women of that generation, brother JT, couldn't leave because they had to survive. But guess what? Men now can't leave because they got to survive, because the court system, JT, is not beneficial to white men or black men. So men are staying in these bad relationships because they know if they divorce that disrespectful, dishonorable woman, they can't survive. Let me be real clear to those that are cloud watching, and those that always probably don't want to deal with me because I'm too raw, and that's fine. I'm not a clean ball.
Right.
I'm a man. I say what I want to say. I don't tap dance and go along to get along. That's for weak people.
Yeah.
I down what I believe, and that's the difference between me and a lot of these clowns. Because see, what I've learned a lot of times, brother JT, people don't want truth; they want popularity. So if you're popular, they'll give you a platform. I'm not trying to be popular, because the current world that we live in, at some point, it's going to pass away. I'd rather be on the right side of doing what's right, JT, than to compromise my masculinity and tap dance and dignify myself as a black man trying to be popular with some of these fake Negroes. I'm not doing that. So to those that don't want to rock with me because I'm too raw, that's fine. You're not part of my tribe anyway. I want to deal with men that speak truth to power. I want to deal with black women that speak truth to power. I want to deal with white men and white women that speak truth to power and believe that you have to tell the truth and be willing to take accountability and take responsibility for whatever happens. Not these old fakes that, they talk, they have to say certain things and talk a certain way to get. I'm not doing that. I'm going to say what I want to say. I'm kosher. I'm raw. And I'm going to keep it 100. I'm not going to be disrespectful. But what I've learned, JT, is this. Whether you tell the truth and you speak the truth unapologetically with a soft voice, a mid-tone voice, or a masculine voice, they still going to have a problem with what you say.
Yeah.
So why not just go ahead and tell the truth? Because, either way you say it, they're gonna always have a problem. And then you got people that come on streaming. You and I talked about it yesterday in the back, that they don't understand it. YouTube is a business. We want to help people, but we want to get compensated because it takes a lot of work to put shows together. And then on top of that too, they're trying to tell you how to run your show. You're not gonna tell me how to run my business. Yeah. I'm gonna run my show the way I want to run my show, because they don't understand that it takes a lot of time, preparation, and also you got to be able to think on the fly when you do these commentaries. Man, it's a lot of work. And so anytime you say anything they don't like for you to say, they either don't support you or they get mad. Just like, I'm talking about men, folks. I can see women doing it, but men do it. And so I'm in a stage of my life, JT, when you hit 50, you're just like, man, whatever. Once you get a certain age, you ain't going to keep arguing with people and trying to prove who you are. You're going to say what you want to say. And those that rock with you, going to rock with you. And those that don't, they can go in the corner. But what I'm not going to do, and the thing I tell the men when I talk with men in therapy, you got to start raising your voice. You got to stop suffering in silence. Because the worst thing that can happen, JT, when you get older, you can go through what's called an existentialist crisis. That simply means that now you're asking yourself the question on your deathbed: did I live my life on purpose based on masculine principles, or did I just exist to appease my woman, somebody that don't care about me and somebody that don't respect me, and someone that never saw my dignity as a human being, and someone that never saw my dignity as a man?
Yeah. I don't think that people even look that far down. I talk about it all the time. I don't think people actually look at it as nothing lasts forever, right? And we eventually get old, God willing. And with that comes from, you get greater loss, right? But as you get older, and if you've really been living your life as close to righteousness as possible, you will be okay with, those are what we call acceptable losses. But a lot of people are not. I've seen people, for instance, funerals, right? When you have people in a lot of funerals, especially older folks, there's an acceptable loss. They understand that this day will come, and they do the respectable thing for their loved one, put them away the right way and all these different things. But then you have these other folks that would go to the funeral and act a fool They didn't care nothing about this loved one while they was on here on earth. And then they get the news that they're no longer here. What do? They want to jump on top of the casket. They want to take me with you and act a fool. And I'm saying it's because there's guilt that's there. You dig what I'm saying? So when we're looking at what's happening right now, and especially this whole thing, happy life, happy wife.
Yes.
No. The nuance comes, and let me take this because I haven't talked about my father, right?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I did it for a reason. My father made sure my mother had a joyous life experiencing it with him while not getting rid of who he really is. My father was a straight shooter. And sometimes he can be crass when he talk. And he let people know where they stand at with him. Right. He didn't smile with everybody, but he liked meeting friends and having friends. If you were like a male friend of his, he called you his buddy. That's my buddy right there. That's my buddy right there. Right. And what he did was show my mother of 50-something years that he can be what they consider to be a person with great integrity, which means that he has a certain loyalty for a person, but his loyalty is not to be a fool. I've seen him and his friends break up because his friend lacked integrity. He did something. My father, he's not the one that's going to come over there to beat you up and all that. Very firm man, knew how to fight. He was fit, but he was very gentle also. And a lot of people ended up treating him the way that he needed, the way he commanded his treatment. That was the same thing with my mom. He commanded his treatment. He didn't demand. Why you don't give me submission? I've never heard any man beg a woman in that generation for submission. Right. That word is fairly new, unless you're talking about it in a biblical sense. Wasn't nobody in there. They wasn't talking about submission and all
right. I agree, because they understood when they got married, it was part of the vow back then was honor and obey your husband. So it was just an understanding. It was just an understanding. Women said in the vows, honor and obey. But you got so-called Christian women that are Christian feminists now. They don't believe in honoring their husbands. And I'm going to tell you something else too, JT, that men got to be careful with. We went from husband and wife to spouse to now partner. Now, there are some, JT, that say partner. They don't mean nothing by it. Let me be real clear. They don't mean nothing by it. They understand that there's a dynamic where the man is the leader, and they just say partner. But it's dangerous because words mean something, JT. And so when you start saying partner, many women say partner because psychologically they have what's called a maladaptive schema. That's a clinical term that I use. A maladaptive schema. A schema is a pattern of thinking, and so that schema says that men inherently are dangerous. So they want what's called healthy masculinity or soft masculinity, where the man is not abusing power. Which in actuality, most men now are more egalitarian than any other generation, especially black men. Black men are too egalitarian, in my opinion, because when I went to Brazil and when I went to DR, and when I went to, those are two countries, those men, even though some of them are bad themselves, those men are men. They have final say. And the women respect the men. And so they say partner because, see, they want a partnership, JT, when it comes down to power. Even though there are some that use the partner with that word, they mean nothing by it. But I don't believe the men should use it because you're basically shaping your reality. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. So they want a partnership when it comes down to power. But they want the man to be traditional when it comes down to doing the things that men should do, like pay bills, put his life on the line, change the tire. But see, if we're going to be partners, then this is how it's going to go. But we're going to be partners when the tire break down. Go handle that partner. I'm on Instagram talking to JT right now. Go ahead and get down there. It's hot outside. And go ahead and change that tire, partner.
You got it.
Yeah, you got it. If going to be a partner, watch this, JT, going to be a partner. When I go on trips, I paid the last time, partner, so you pay this time, partner. If it's going to be a partnership, then, JT, it means when somebody break in the house, the last time I went downstairs and heard noise, now it's your turn, partner. Because it's all predicated, brother JT, in this negativity, this irrational belief that's not based in reality, that men by default are dangerous. That's why they say they'll rather have the bear than the man, because even though that's stupid, But because a bear doesn't, if you put bears in an environment to the level that you put a man in an environment, those bears would destroy men and women.
Yeah.
Or if you put a woman put a woman out in the forest and in the Dakotas where there are a bunch of bears, that bear gonna eat it alive.
Yeah.
and so it's all based in rebellion. It's tied to what's called occultic feminism. I'm gonna get the lady. I'm gonna do a show with a lady soon at some point, and it's all anti-God because it goes against order. And so men are always in relationships, brother JT, where they're always on guard. They're always walking on eggshells. They always got to be careful what they say. And the thing that I find to be the greatest affront, brother JT, is this. Watch this, because I'm gonna drop some fire for your mind. I will argue that men of that generation and now got more emotional intelligence than the women. I'm gonna tell you why. Because they're always trying to read the room. They're always trying to accommodate their wives. They're always trying to do what's best for her. Men of the other generation, when you come down to love music, men have always made love music as a form of emotional intelligence to serenade their women. But we can also argue that here recently, and maybe some in the past, they never had emotional intelligence, because true emotional intelligence would be that I'm going to read the room, I'm going to have emotional regulation, I'm going to be centered and grounded so I can study my man, understand my man, walk in my feminine virtue, and give that man what he needs to be the best version of himself. But watch this. They can't do it when you have been indoctrinated to see man is the enemy. You can't do it when you say that black men conspire with white men and white oligarchs to create what's called a patriarchy. Black men never had the power to create no patriarchy because black men were seen as boys. Yeah. So how can you have a true patriarchy if you're a boy? Black men never conspire with rich white men, even average white men, to create no patriarchy. So a true patriarchy, JT, would be that black men had power at the macro level. Black men had power at the group level, and black men had power at the individual level. Now, have there been quasi-patriarchies or pseudo-patriarchies where there was some vestige of power? Maybe. But all-encompassing power where black men created policies to oppress and hurt women with intersections. Black men never had no power. We were fighting for our lives. We were in survival mode. We were trying to live together. That's why James Ingram came up with songs Love Together and Devotion, because we understood the struggle. And black men were dedicated to the struggle. But when you hear women saying that now we got our money and we don't need you anymore, then that lets me know you was never with the black man in the first place.
Yeah.
You were never down for the cause of black excellence and black community and love together and devotion. Go ahead, brother. No, you're about to say something. Go ahead.
One of the things that I've seen was that that's why we always have to find out the age of people that spout out this stuff, right?
Right.
Like you hear women, and these women be in their 30s.
Right. That's true. I agree with you. They've been in their 30s.
They're talking about now that we have this. Right. And then they talk about back in the day type of thing. And I'm like, wait, we need to unpack that. What do you mean back in the day? Are you talking about the 80s, the 70s, the 60s, the 50s? Because once you get past pretty much the 90s and the 2000s, what do y'all know about it? Right. The only thing that you can do is base it off of the things that you hear people say. Right. But if you've never experienced it, you would never let that come out of your mouth. Right. You would never sit back and say, well, women, they now that they're making money, women have been making money for a very, very long, especially black women. They've always They've always worked. I've never seen a woman that needed a job and couldn't get one. Now, was it challenging to get the job that they wanted? Of course. Right. Of course. But when you actually look at the ones that actually were successful back in the day, they did it together. There's no way you can argue that right there. They did that together. And when you hear them talking about how they did it together, they would tell you how much of a journey that was. Right. They'd tell you how much they had to go and fight through certain things. I've always said this: relationships and marriage is not built to save you. Right. It actually does the total opposite. It will reveal who you really are. And it's going to help you unpack all of the luggage that you have. It's going to bring out and enhance all the great things that you have, right? the good things that you have, the potential things that you have. It makes it, and it will edify it if you allow it.
Right.
It would get all of the things that works against you in your relationship. It will make you have to work through those things. One of the things I know for a fact in relationships is that you have to, in order for you to even have a working relationship, there has to be some type of conflict. Some people think that conflict is all negative. It's not.
It's not. I agree with that. Yes, sir. I agree with you 100%. All conflict is not negative. Right. I agree with that. Right.
It's to reveal who you are, how strong you are, how well you can listen, how well you can convey.
Yes, sir.
All of these things.
I agree with you.
A lot of these folks think that relationships is to save you and make things easy for you. No, you will make things easy for you, right? It's the two people that's in those relationships that would edify one another. And the thing is that it would help to illuminate everything else that's going on around you. When you have children, that's what your relationship is built to edify them. When you have, even when your siblings have children, that's why it's good to be an uncle or auntie. When you have cousins, all of these things are relationships. What we have right now in this time right now is that we have a lot of people that deals with being single. I don't care what anybody think. No, that's a lie. You have to care what people think. That's why with men, we have to be at a point where, yeah, we do care about what you think, but only on certain things, right? Because we're moving forward.
Yes, sir.
I agree. When we have younger folks and we have our kids, even with our peers, some things when we can talk and they come for counsel, sometimes we have to be in that standpoint where I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, right? Just like what you were saying, straight shooters and things like that. A lot of us have to be able to be edified. These are the things that make us better people.
Yes, sir. Right.
So now when we're looking at this whole thing in relationships where it saves us, this is why only thing we set ourselves up for is disappointment. You dig? Right. That's how I look at it. You're going to be disappointed. And what do you do after you get disappointed? Are you going to leave from your disappointment? Or are you going to say, okay, we need to work through this disappointment type of a thing? One thing that I do understand about certain women is that they will present the problem, right? But they also think that you are supposed to, by yourself, fix it. They don't understand that, no, this shit, it takes partnership. You get what I'm saying? They only want it. That's why I'm right along with you. I don't like the word partner at all when you're talking about a relationship.
Right.
Because that's not conducive.
It's not conducive. And women of the latter generation, because I think, listen, this is what I believe, JT. Ever since the fall of man, from a theological perspective, there's been a war between men and women fighting for power. So it ain't nothing new under the sun. The women after Eve have always tried to usurp the authority of their husbands. The Bible says she will have a desire for her husband, but he will rule over her. Rulership doesn't mean the abuse of power like some think. It just means that he's going to be the man, he's going to guide her, and he's going to stand on business. They don't want that. They want a soft masculinity where she's shaping his masculinity based on her emotional volatility, based on perception of masculinity. But true women that understand masculine men, because they're centered women, they're grounded women, they're mature women, they have emotional intelligence. They know how to use their feminine intelligence to get what they want from a man. They know how to kiss him on the forehead to calm the savage beast. They know how to kiss him and tell him I love you and speak life into him. Like Teddy Pendergrass said, you from the Motor City. He said, you inspire me. He talked about the Mona Lisa. He said, you inspire me. He said, you're my greatest inspiration. That's what Teddy said back in the day.
Latest and greatest.
Latest and greatest. And men back then, JT, were willing to serenade women in an honor and respect, because those women understood how to speak life. They weren't perfect, and neither were the men, but they were a lot better than now. Now you got average to subpar women that think they deserve six-figure men, competent men to work hard to get their status, and just because their mama black, you're supposed to put a ring on their finger. And and I say that the devil is a liar. Shout out to my man Trucker Yale for that $10. He said that's a D shame. He said 1/3 is nasty work. But don't worry, the generation after Gen Z move on man principles about 5 to 10, watch how this generation of men are going to speak up. I agree with him. And I think you're beginning to see it now.
Yeah.
I think the work, if you've done the work that I'm doing, is preparing the new generation to say, okay, we're going to stand on business. If you're going to get the ring, you're going to earn that ring.
Yeah.
You ain't going to just get a ring because you got a split. You're going to earn that ring. And if you don't have the qualities to earn that ring, then so be it. They always say, JT, that the woman is the prize. The woman is not the prize by default. Does the woman have some prize-worthy elements? Yes. But the man is the master prize. The man is the master prize, and the woman is his special prize. They both are prize-worthy. Because if a woman, because I created a term called the prize catcher. Women just think that they are the prize because they're a woman. You're not the prize. If that man don't see value in you, you ain't getting a ring. You'll be single for the rest of your life. You might be the prize in your head. And if that man doesn't have any status, money, masculinity, height, or whatever, even though I don't think they should judge a man solely on height, then he can't get it because he watched his water seeks his own level. So a woman that's a 1 that wants a man that's a 10, but that man that's a 1 say, no, I want a 5, but that one man that's a 1 that got money, he might can get a 3 or 4. But a woman that's a 1 can never get a 5. And so what the prize catcher says is that, according to the scripture, the woman was made for man. Man wasn't made for woman. Woman is the glory of man, and man is the glory of God. That's like man telling God that he's the prize. That's blasphemy. So woman was made for man. She was made to inspire him on the front end, love him, obey him, the word that they don't like, protect his peace mentally, because a wise woman builds her house and a foolish woman tears it down. But then on the back end, the man is supposed to put his life on the line for his woman, protect her from herself, love her, pour into her by loving her and serenade her with love and kisses. But see, modern women want to be good. They want everything good without being good women. They want to demand what they want, but they don't give nothing in return. And so when I start saying the conversation, oh, you're a misogynist, you hate black women, your mama's black. And we keep having these dumb circular conversations that never go nowhere because you don't have enough men that are willing to speak truth to power and to speak up with conviction and not be afraid of what they're saying. And that's why we keep having these circular conversations. Shout out to my man, Gregory Scotland, for that 9. He's the #1 sponsor. He said that Kosher, remember, women got upset and unsubscribed from your channel because you checked. Yeah, right. Right away, some tried to play games with you by accusing you of being against the community. He's right. I saw it. They thought I was going to, speak, softly and, tell them that they are special without being special. You have to be special for a man to give you the honor of a ring. I think men need to start raising the bar, JT, and say, if you're going to get this ring, you got to meet high standards and high criteria, because men got a lot to lose, man, by saying I do in America. And I'm going to tell you something, man, and you may agree or disagree, and that's fine if you disagree, because I respect it. I don't advise men getting married, not because I'm against marriage, because I do believe in marriage. I think marriage is beautiful under the right conditions. Let me say that. But I do not advise men getting married in this current culture that we live in. How would you respond to that?
Brother, anybody that knows me, they already know where I stand at when it comes down to the marriage in this current time. I just spoke on that. It's something else that has to happen before these folks get married, because it's like this whole concept of marriage has not only been lost, but it never was gained with this new generation, right? Because for some odd reason, the message has been lost in translation. One of the things that I look at is when you have women, and this is the greatest thing about living long. You know what I'm saying? You get a chance to see everything. I have people that are in my life. I have a cousin, right? 3 years younger than me, been married to her husband for 30 years now, I think. She'll tell you in a minute, he's the prize.
He's the prize, right.
And the thing that he does, this is the craziest part. The thing that he does is specially and tailor-made for her. This is through his flaws and everything. It's not when I see him, I see a flawed man, but I also see a man that put his family in front.
Right.
He holds them up. So she makes sure in return that man don't need for anything. Right. And she would tell anybody, whatever my husband want, he gets that. I've never heard her complain about whatever it is that man asked for. And he could be, I don't know if he asked for a whole lot from her. All I know is for 30 years, she holds that man up high as her king. We already understand that whole exonerated thing. In real life, I mean, you're not a king, you're just a king. It's just an exonerated way of, telling somebody. But I see it. I see how she looks at him, even when they go out. And he's not a dancer, but guess what? He get out and, he don't want to be too, when you don't associate with people a whole lot, he's kind of like that.
Standoffish, right.
However, they must have had a talk, because guess what he do? He gets out, if they go out and dance, she be like, I don't want to dance with nobody else. I want to dance with you. Right.
Right.
So what he does is he just listen to her. He ain't got to tell her I agree and all that. He just be like, okay, next time I'm gonna show her. So that's what he's more of a doer than somebody that'll sit back. And that's just what in my observation of men as the prize, that's what I see. I've seen it a couple of times, but that's just one because it's really close to me. And I just look at her and I mean, that man ain't got it. I don't think he ever, in the time that he's been dating and marrying her, ever went and had to buy his own clothes. He don't buy nothing when it comes down. She does it all because she knows her husband. Guess what he do though? He makes sure that roof is not leaking. He makes sure that house is together, and he works a lot of hours.
Right.
But they got 3 kids too. And guess what? She was the mother of those kids. 100.
Yeah, right.
Now that the kids are grown, she's trying to figure out, okay, how do we get back together, get our thing back? Because now they're doing their own thing. And that's a struggle when you've been, been a parent for so long.
Right.
That's how long they've been together. But he's the prize. It doesn't look, when you're actually looking at, or you're actually in the relationship, it doesn't look like this thing is saving you, because it's work. It is work.
Right. Marriage was never about fairy tales and butterflies.
At all.
It was about duty. It was always about duty, brother JT. It was always about duty. Shout out to my man, my brother, Dr. L, man. Salute to you, brother. That's a Gen X brother. Got nothing but love for him, man. Former cop, former captain, police department, man. Him and I both got law enforcement background. And I got nothing but love and respect for the brother. Good brother, man. Got nothing but love and respect for him. And also, it's time for men to start raising the bar, telling our story, and say, you just don't qualify. And it's okay. Because I'm sure, JT, you didn't qualify to some women in the 90s, and I didn't either. And I was okay with it. I got it from the mud. But what ain't going to happen when even though I've been with my wife for 30 years, I demand excellence from my wife. But, I remember I went to our class reunion back in 2010. Chick had a big back, big chick told me, she said, I liked it at you. I said, no, you didn't like it at me, baby, with no ED on the end. She said, I liked it at you. No, you didn't like it at me. She said, I used to like it at you back in high school. No, you didn't like it at me, sweetie. You can't do nothing for me. Because I know you ran through, you big, and I'm not coming in to rescue you. You didn't add no value to my life when I was busting my behind, going to grad school, up studying late at night, being persecuted because I'm 6'5", 6'6". Because JT, they don't want masculine men. They want masculine men under their approval. They don't want masculine men to tell the story the way we want to tell the story. They want masculine men that they approve of. They want a Care Bear black man where they can shape his masculinity based on her perception of masculinity, instead of that man speaking truth to power and saying, listen, if you're going to rock with me, you're going to rock with me. If you can't, you can go. Because watch this, JT. As you get older, you get better with time. I always tell men that they eat right, lift weights, take care of their health. I'm not talking about guys that got big stomach and geriatric bellies.
Right.
They can't get the meat up. But I'm talking about men that eat clean, they lift weights, they got their money up. Those men are silver foxes. And so a silver fox got options because he got more money now. He's wiser. A silver fox can say, you 52. You can say, listen, I'm gonna tap into something about 40 or 35. But black men in America gotta always get approval from women. I ain't get no approval from no woman. A woman ain't gonna tell me what to do.
Right.
First of all, a man ain't gonna tell me what to do. And a woman definitely not gonna tell me what to do. I'm gonna do what I wanna do as a man. And either you can be part of it or you can't. But you will not manipulate me into more or less trying to minimize the value that I bring. And I think it's time for men to start being like other men. We got to break that psychic bond that we have, man, and start being men again.
Yeah.
Because that's what the Creator expects us to be. God never made us to bow to the emotions of a woman.
Yeah.
God made us to love our women, protect our women, and die for our women, but not to the point where we are constantly always on eggshells. I like what Dr. L was saying about emotional labor. He did a show with the young lady, shout out to the young lady, the LMFT. And he talked about the emotional labor. Not saying that men don't want to listen to their women, but nonsensical conversations where it's always her feelings and how she feels and what happened. Oh, nobody don't want to hear that, man.
Right.
You know, being a man is hard enough. And so I'm tired of these dumb conversations. It's not enough. Let me show you something. I want to get into it, man, because this has been a good conversation, man. I'm enjoying talking to you. Let's look at this. Hold tight.
Likewise.
Wife, happy life, destroying your self-esteem and masculinity. Here's why this form of mental abuse never works.
Happy wife, happy life. It sounds noble, but men, let's be real. This mantra was never about love. It became a strategy to avoid confrontation. Keep her happy, keep her quiet, and keep the peace. But peace built on silence isn't peace at all. It's avoidance. And you can only sweep so much under the rug before you trip over it. In my new book, The Man the Moment Demands, I expose why this misleading mantra fails both men and women. It puts the wife on a pedestal as the better half while reducing the husband to a servant. The honey-do list becomes his identity. Intimacy becomes his reward for his compliance, and then resentment builds in his heart as nothing ever seems to be good enough. Men, passive-aggressively allowing your wife to always have her way doesn't create peace.
I like what Jason Wilson said, man, and he's 100% correct. And what I've learned is that women only respect power and strength. All this, bowing down to her and doing what she's saying, happy wife. No, there ain't gonna be no happy wife, happy life, sweetie. It's gonna be happy us, happy life. And I'm gonna be the leader, and you're gonna be the cheerleader, and we're gonna make this relation, this kingdom thing work. But if you can't be my cheerleader, I'm gonna get rid of you. I'm gonna find a way to get rid of you, and then I'm gonna find a woman that's gonna get on my program. What did you learn about? And you don't have to go into too much detail, but what did you learn, or were there mistakes that you made that you can share with young men not to make in your own relationships about power? Because I believe the women only respect at a fundamental level, even though there are other things, but at a fundamental, if you had to look at it at the top, then at the top, she respects power and strength. If you're not willing to walk away, if you don't have leverage in that relationship, whether it be your masculinity, whether it be money, whether it be you having options with other women, she'll never respect you as a man or you being her number one choice. I tell men to get with women that want them more than he want her. And I know that sounds weird, but what it basically means is that you want a woman that looks up to you. If she don't look up to you or see you as an equal or less, she'll never respect you when it comes down to power. How would you respond to that?
Yeah, so the thing is that when you're doing this thing of leadership, you have to also understand that that's great responsibility.
Right.
And it takes consistency. It takes balance. It takes being not afraid to say no. Right.
That's true.
It takes, but it also takes being someone that leads with logic. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you have to be, and not sometimes, but all the time, you have to be the teacher, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's one of the things that in a relationship, a lot of men struggle with. The consistency part of it.
That's true.
Not being afraid to say no. And one of the biggest things that you just said, not being willing to let it go.
That's it. Yes, sir. Right.
Because what happens is that you can't, for one, you start complaining and there's no movement after the complaint. That's the only thing she's going to do is say, he always complained.
He always complained. Right.
It gets worse and worse and worse.
It gets worse. Right.
You can't build a boundary in your relationship if you do not understand that sometimes you have to say no.
Real briefly, because I'm going to show some more clips. Shout out to my man, Revelated Spirit of Variance. But briefly, under 2 minutes, what did you learn from your relationship that you can teach other young men about how to move? And maybe you answered it. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Maybe you answered it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, the consistency part.
Okay.
You can't be say that I'm gonna do this and you don't do it, regardless of what it is. Right? You have to. That's how you establish a boundary. You have to be at a point where you say, listen, when you do certain things and it violates what we have going on, there's going to be consequences that come with that.
There's going to be consequences that come with it. Yes, sir. Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I totally agree. You're 100% correct.
Right. So
I agree.
The craziest part is that one of the things that I have to tell a lot of these guys is that you have to be able to vet women a lot better than what we've been doing. The way that she look is only part of it.
Right.
Because it's just the way that she appears. But once she starts to undress, and you start to see exactly who she is, you better start making a decision then. And a lot of times, like what you were saying about marriage, and I ended with this. I look at marriage and sex as being synonymous.
They're synonymous. You're right.
I don't think women these days should ever be opening their legs to a man that they do not intend on saying yes to him.
I totally agree.
So then there has to be a time where these women have to be able to vet a lot more harsh. Now, this is the thing. I don't care where your daddy is. I don't care how you look at your daddy. You better start putting your daddy into the vetting process, period. Because no matter what it is, that man is going to make him be a father, just like the wife is going to enhance us to be a husband. Right. Sometimes we don't know what it means to be husbands until we start being in that marriage, right? And now we start to be edified because her femininity, the things that she needs to be a wife and be conducive in the relationship, it's going to be your responsibility, my guy. That's the thing that we don't talk about also. Our responsibility. Relationships is our response. That woman is ours. Them children are ours. It's our responsibility. If you are going into a relationship to be a stepfather, you better be serious about it because guess what? You have to deal with, if she got children, you're responsible for them and you better understand what the nuances in that relationship is. If you can't handle that, be honest with that woman. Quit wasting her time and your time.
But listen, I don't even think men like if I had a son, I'm gonna tell my son to marry a woman, no kid, not at all. I would tell my son to get the best that his money can buy. I'm talking about, I think black men standards are so low, we just take anything. And from our times of travel, black men are highly venerated across the world. I'm not saying we're perfect. White men are venerated the most because they got power and money. But when it comes down to sexuality and masculinity, even though I think black men are very egalitarian, black men are highly respected for the most part when it comes down to sexual market value and dating. And so I don't believe the black man should settle for that. I think a black man should explore his options and get the best woman that he can get. Because you're going to laugh at this, JT. Now, I came up with the term hoflation. Shout out to my man, Peaceful Life. And then I heard other content creators talking about it. So I got a new term. We got to start, you're going to laugh at it. And guys, this is satire. Let me be real clear. I'm not talking in my therapeutic nomenclature. I'm going to talk very erudite first, or very academic first. I'm not talking about in the enunciation of my nomenclature, but I'm talking in satire for the brothers. We need to start charging these women, brother JT, and guys, Top gonna write. Quiet's gonna write this down. We need to start charging a whole tax. We need to start charging a whole tax. We need to start charging a whole tax, brother JT. We're gonna tax you for we're gonna prorate it. We're gonna start charging you a whole tax. And if you don't meet the criteria, then that tax we're gonna put tariffs on that cat. We're gonna start charging a whole tax. We're gonna start charging the whole tax, man, because inflation is at an all-time high, man, and so is delusion, man. And so we got to start charging a whole tax because we got the most to lose. And like I said, man, I don't recommend that men settle for women with kids. I just don't. If a man's a single man, no kids, I just think he should focus on himself and get the best woman. I've raised my daughters, man, to be virgins, to be virginal women that keep themselves looking pretty. But I also have told my daughters that they need to get the best man that on the market that can give them a good life, that can build a legacy, and give them what daddy gave them. But I don't believe my daughters should get with dusty men.
Right.
I don't believe that my daughters should get now. I mean, of course, they got a right to choose what they want to choose, but I don't want my daughter to get with men that got kids by other women. Now, could God say, well, that's the man? Well, if God said, so be it. But I don't. Yeah, I believe my daughter should get the best of the best of the best.
Yeah.
I don't even believe, JT, that if you and I got kids, we should get with women with kids, because if you get with a woman with no kids, listen, if you and I got kids, but we get with women that have no kids, we still gonna be responsible for taking care of our kids, and then the kids we decide to help with that woman we choose to. And so I think men should exercise their options at the highest level, keep the bar extremely high. And I think when men start doing that, JT, the women that are serious about marriage, dating, and relationships, they have no other choice but to autocorrect. Women want to be led by men. It's in their nature to be led. That's why they do things based on groupthink. And I think when men raise the standard, the women will have no other choice but to raise the standard. But until then, it's going to take a generation. It's going to take a generation, man, to dial. It ain't going to happen in yours and mine in your lifetime. They're going to have to dial. The old heads going to have to dial, and we're going to have to get a new generation. Let's finish listening to this clip. Hold tight.
It creates an illusion of it. And before you know it, your marriage is a mirage.
Happy wife, happy life is abusing power. And I love something you said on Taylor's show. You know, we used the slave narratives about women being trapped in relationships in the past. Well, guess what? I love what you said. Men are trapped in relationships now. And so if they really believe in relationship equality, then you should be actively fighting for the same justice for men, just like you're fighting for the justice of women. But you really don't believe in equality. You believe in selective equality, and equality only when it's symmetrical to what women want. And that's why these conversations never have any balance or any hearsay, because it's a one-sided argument, or where the man's masculinity got to be shaped in her pedagogical worldview based on her liberal indoctrination in school, and based on her undisciplined emotions as it relates to being a woman.
Should women submit to men?
No.
Women should not submit to men.
Now, what did you think about what I said that when Dr. L was on my show real quick, and then we'll listen to what this is the problem that we're having, Brother DT, JT. This is not just a black woman. This isn't a Western woman issue. But what did you think about what I said? And then we'll get into this next clip. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it does matter. That whole equality thing, for one, it doesn't work, especially if women are still trying to be hypergamous. You're either going to have hypergamy or you're going to have equality. And we starting to see right now that equality is keeping women single. That's just what it is. And I land with that one right there. I agree with what you just said. I just wanted to add to that.
Break it down a little bit, JT, how you believe equality is keeping women single. Add a little clarity to it. So the audience can
Yeah, so equality is the same thing of being a partner, right? Equality.
Okay, gotcha. I see your point. Right.
Yeah, so
right.
when you're looking at it, we already know that there's no equality in a relationship with women and men. There's only someone have to be the head. And so basically what women actually want is for them to have superiority over the man.
Yes, sir. Right.
If she's asking for equality, she knows that don't exist. I'm telling you, a lot of these guys be talking about women are not smart. I think that they are very intelligent and smart. They're very strategic. They plan everything. And to get with this man, they plan to get it and get rid of him. They plan everything. They plan and all these things. So
right.
Smart. So at the end of the day, they understand either I'm gonna have hypergamy or I'm not going to have hypergamy. He opens the door for me, or I just open the door. And that's just an analogy, but it's the thing is that they already understand this. They know that there's no such thing as hypergamy and equality in a relationship.
Right, and I'm gonna add to what you said. They are smart, but they're not necessarily smart by default. They're smart by how they strategize things, which makes them more intelligent. But they are grounded in what they want, but men are not grounded in what they want. Men are always on the defense while they're on the offense. But if men get grounded, then they're no longer on the offense. They're on the defense. I mean, they're no longer on the defense. They're on the offense. So once men get grounded, then they can be offensive in their attacks. But we have been conditioned to see things from the past, where women have been conditioned to see things in modern times. And once men get conditioned to see things when they are grounded, then really they're not smart. They're very predictable. Sometimes I do certain things, man, and and they fall right for the bait. They don't even know I'm doing it. But they prove to me that they're not as smart as they think they are. Once you basically understand female nature, they're not as smart as they think they are. They're very predictable because, see, watch this. The Bible said, can a leopard change his spots? And they can't. Eventually, they're going to show themselves every time.
Every time.
They're going to show themselves every time, man. Because if they were really smart, then why can't they pick good men? For the group that said that they men are not emotionally intelligent and they're more emotionally intelligent than men, well, why do they keep picking obtuse men? So that would tell me that you're not emotionally intelligent because you're not emotionally grounded, and you're not emotionally centered because your emotions override your logic. You get emotionally grounded and get emotionally centered after chaos, but you're not emotionally grounded and centered before chaos. And because she has a very dysregulated nervous system and she doesn't know how to self-soothe, she's always picking bad men, which in essence is leading to trauma responses, which in essence is leading to chaos. So therefore, she's not as smart as she thinks she is. She's just more strategic because she's been more conditioned. But when men get centered and get off their square, that's why, JT, I don't believe the men should fall. And I use that word fall euphemistically. We should never fall in love, but we should love within reason. Now watch this. When we fall in love, JT, then we don't see things through the lens of logic. But when we love through reason, we understand that women can have a dark nature, but we don't love them outside of our purpose as a man. Do you see the difference between the two?
I know the difference with the two, and you making mad sense to me.
Am I making sense to you? Because sometimes I think I'm on an island by myself, man. With some of these troglodytes, some of these slugs, man. Some of these troglodytes and slugs, man. Because I know I'm dropping gems. I'm not trying to be arrogant, but I know I'm dropping gems. Yeah. And so when you love within reason, you understand that she's a creature that's always a slave to her feelings first. So therefore, I'm not going to give her all of me. I'll give enough of me to her. And because in a good relationship, you got to make a woman earn that relationship. In healthy relationships, if she earned the relationship, she will appreciate the relationship. But if you give it to her without making her earn it, she'll never respect it. Right. Because human beings by nature, JT, like the path of least resistance. And when something is easily given, you don't respect it. And so men for so long have given their power away without demanding anything higher. I'm not against healthy relationships. Yeah. But I would say in my own relationship, when I started demanding more from my wife, I started getting better because I was already treating her good. Because my daddy treated my mama good. But what I realized, the more I gave, sometimes I didn't always get what I deserved as a man. And so when you let them know that I'm willing to walk away, that my wallet got a headache and my wallet is tired, they ain't got no other choice but to either capitulate or be left behind. Because see, watch this, JT. If I moved on today, I can still get younger, prettier women. Yeah. If not from here, I can get them from other countries. I can still, JT, be at 6'5", highly educated, Ivy League adjacent education. I can still get a younger, hotter woman if I wanted to. But at her age, can she get a man? Yes. But can she get a man that's symmetrical to me? No, she can't. Because they don't understand, JT, that men are not expendable, but men are highly validated and men are highly venerated once they know what their worth is. Does that make sense? Yeah,
makes a lot of sense. I remember my not first, but one of many relationships. One of the things I learned about relationships early as a kid was the conflict my mom and my father had. And the thing was that I guess they were going through, whatever it was that they were going through, and they wasn't talking to each other and stuff like that. And I just remember overhearing my father and my mother going through, they was having a conversation. And my father came in and was like, where's my food? Right? She made the food for me and my brother. And my father was like, so you not cooking for me? She said, had you been talking to me, then I would have cooked for you. And my father nutted up. The hell is this? And this was like, and I was probably about 8 or 9 years old when I'm overhearing this, right? He said, so now this is what we doing. Then if you need gas, if the tire busts and all of that, I won't help you do shit.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Right. So I'm hearing it. And my mom was like, they were going back and forth and she was trying to justify it. And then it just got to the point where, guess what she ended up doing? Cooking for him.
Right.
And for the next 45 years, no matter if they were arguing with each other, not mad at each other, or whatever,
exactly.
He always had a meal. He always had a meal.
Exactly. My wife does it all the time.
Yep.
We can have drag out arguments, but guess what? In the morning time, she got enough emotion to tell to have some coffee ready.
Yep.
And some eggs and bacon and grits or oatmeal ready.
She
and we can
never,
have a go ahead.
She ain't never had to mow a lawn. I ain't never seen my mama mow a lawn.
My wife never have either. Never mow the lawn. Never
gas.
Never.
Now, because she's without my father, but the thing is that she's up under me and my brother's tutelage now, right?
That's right.
So there's certain things that she does, and she's like, I don't even know how to even do this, right? It's like, because your daddy always did it.
They always did it, right?
Right. So it was kind of like one of those things. This is what I mean. Equality, hypergamy, you can't have both at the same time.
You can't have
At the end of the day, they still did, no matter what was going on, and that they still made it work for them.
Right.
Be mad as hell. My father still be like, let me get myself up and make sure she got gas in the car.
Right.
He one of them old school cats. You don't even come below zero. You know what I'm saying? He makes sure that she got everything that she needs. The only thing she had to do was go to work. Right. So that was one of the lessons I learned. So it was like something I took with me. You know what I'm saying? Myself. And so when that happens, and it's just so luckily, I did have a relationship with a woman that it was like, just because we mad at each other don't mean we don't do what's normal for each other, right?
Right.
Because she ain't on that hypergamous type of thing. She like, no, this is what we do still. You be mad at me? You can go without talking to me for a little while. I'll give you your space and all that. Then we had a conversation, but you got to work it out. That was one of the things that I also say in a relationship. There's a way that you can work it out. I don't think we give ourselves enough credit. I don't think we give ourselves enough credit in these relationships because everybody wants to when they go through something, they think that their marriage is on the brinks. No, you're going through something.
Right.
It's conflict.
Right. That's conflict. Right. And you know what? That's why I said women of the past did things based on duty, because watch this, JT. Gold without fire never becomes pure gold. That's what the scripture says.
Not at all.
So you got to go through the fire. Shaka Khan made the song back in the past. She said, through the fire, through the limit, through the wall. You got to go through it, but they don't want to go through it. As soon as chaos or conflict happen, now remember, they're the most emotionally intelligent. But look at how so many women have gotten rid of decent men. Tia Mowry, Emmett Smith's wife. They got rid of men that were decent men. Many had chances to marry good men, but because they were so emotionally unintelligent and selfish that they looked past good men, but now they older. Most of them been ran through. And now they want to come back and talk about make them special. You remember that song back in the day talking about Make It Like It Was by Regina Bell? They want you to make it like it was. No, we ain't gonna make it like it was, sweetie. Them days are
that ship has sailed.
Yeah, that ship has sailed. Now we can't make it like it was. It's gone. Hold tight.
No.
Okay. Are you Christian?
Yes.
Okay. Do you agree with her on those things?
To some extent, I believe like submitting should be 50-50.
And then what do you think?
Literally the same thing that she said.
But you're all Christians?
Yes.
Are you Catholic?
No, just Protestant.
Protestant, Catholic. It's funny because I'm agnostic and I go harder for Christianity than actual Christians do. You don't believe in submission. You don't believe in submission. This is completely incoherent and contradictory to your own worldview that you claim to be a part of, your own perspective. You claim to be Christians. Ephesians 5:22, wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as you do to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ Christ is the head of the church, now as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit to their husbands in everything. Do you believe that the Bible is the inspired word of God?
Yes.
If scripture is God-breathed, then rejecting clear commands is disagreement with God. Do you disagree with God?
No.
Okay, so the scripture that I cited to you before, wives obey your husbands, wives submit yourselves to your husbands, you guys are disagreeing with the scripture. So you're disagreeing with God. Is that tenable as a Christian?
No, it is not.
But that doesn't say that the black men didn't either. That's my point.
I was asking you a question about women, and you asked me a question.
But I was saying it. Let me just say this. He's right, but you don't exclude the black man. What are y'all talking about? It wasn't like black men was having all this money and the women was like, well, I'm just gonna stay with him because he make all the money. That was not how that went. Y'all know it wasn't, especially in the 80s. That's when the crack era was. What are you talking about? Black men and black women were struggling. In the 70s, black men and black women were struggling. In the 60s, they were definitely struggling. And at the end of the day, what it took was a family to take care of one another. That's what it took. This was not a thing, because I'm speaking to what First Lady was just saying, that these women finally got this newfound damn money that they got. Now we ain't got to listen to y'all. That's an excuse.
All right, that was your passion point. That was the point, JT, that I went to, Brother Dunn, JT, and I said you was lighting the screen up. Now let's go back to what the women said a minute ago. Let's go back to that. This proves my point, Brother JT, that if they were really emotional intelligent, they will put their emotions before duty, and they will not put their emotions before the word of God. Women of yesterday, your great-grandmama, your grandmother, they feared God more than they worshiped their emotions. The scripture said that idolatry is as to stubbornness, and rebellion is to witchcraft. Ooh. You got a generation of women, JT, that are operating in stubbornness because they worship their emotions over the word of God. But then you got also a generation that rebel against order because they see themselves as being more important than the creator, which in essence is also blasphemous. For a woman to say that she's a Christian, but the word of God is clear, but yet you say you don't want to obey your husband, or they'll flip it and say, JT, well, the Bible said, submit ye to one another. But what they don't understand is this, that submission of the man is totally different than the submission of the woman. The submission of the man to the woman is to die for her, protect her, love her. And that's the eros love. I mean, the agape love that God gave. But the submission of the woman is different. Man don't submit to a woman's authority. The woman submits to the authority of the man. And that's what they don't understand. They don't want to be told what to do. They don't want to pay that whole tax after giving their bodies away to multiple men. And then also they want the benefits of traditionalism while they want the benefits of a traditional husband while they be a modern woman. That's why it's always incongruous to one another. And like you were saying, you can't be hypergamous and be a wife or be a traditional woman at the same time. What did you get from what those women were saying? And I want you to reflect on what you said as well.
So what they were saying was that I don't want to be a wife, right? So when I'm hearing, shout out to whatever podcast, they were talking to women that are not even privy to even be in that type of a discussion right now, because the thing is that wife is basically what they were talking about. None of them women wanted to be wife. It's just like what you were saying, the whole tax, right?
Right.
These women are submitting to men that they have no idea. They're not even trying to have a just a regular relationship with, right? Right. And they don't even understand that they're submitting. Every time you have sex with a man, you're submitting to him. You tell that to them, they will say, no, that's not true.
You are telling the 100% truth, brother. Every time she opened her legs, JT, she's submitting to his rod. And what she don't understand is this. You know what a sepulcher is, right? A sepulcher is a rod.
Yeah.
So when she opened her legs, she's submitting to his rod, which is his authority. So she's submitting. She don't even realize she's submitting. Every time he put his penis in you, she's submitting to that man's rod. That man's rod is his power.
Yeah, absolutely. And they will argue up and down. That tells me right there, they just have no idea of even the first step of vetting, dating, courting, and marriage. They have no idea. These are the lost ones that we have. And it's funny because this is where it gets circular, right? You have these guys that they will argue with these women, knowing that these women are not even aware of where they need to be in order to even have this whole marriage concept down. These are women that are actually doing what you just said. They're actually being, and this is crazy, I'm not saying it just to be talking about them, but they're being whores. Mm-hmm. There's no other way that you can look around with that. This is the problem that we have right now. Our ancestors, they used to talk about those type of women. And what did they used to call them? Loose.
Loose. Yes, sir. That's true. You're right. Loose. You're right. Yes, sir. You're right. The women of that generation not only call them loose, but they call them sluts, and they call them the old women call them whores. That's what the old women call
yes.
them. Right.
So even when you're looking in that standpoint, you saying, oh yeah, they have no idea that what they're doing is they're giving things away because they want what they want at the time that they want it. Now, this is my crazy is what I'm starting to understand is this. They will use being young synonymous with being dumb.
Right.
And the reason being is because they've made decisions that they also know that was not congruent to who they actually are.
Right.
So they're basically outside of themselves, but they don't know how to get back to themselves. Mm-hmm. Reason being is because they're not talking to their fathers. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The closest they get to their father is who? Their mama. Mm-hmm. Close but no cigar. Because guess what? If you actually and your father end up and he has to practice on being honest with you, guess what you will end up getting? The raw truth. Mm-hmm. There's a time where you won't like your father, but there's a time where you're going to have to respect him. And I guarantee you'll respect him. Right. No doubt about it. That young and dumb or playing the naive and all that, time out for that. So when they get on these conversations, when they get on these panels and they get to talking with us, we can't let that slide no more. That young and dumb stuff. Nope. I was naive. You were being hard-headed. Call it for what it is. You are submitting to men that you have no intentions on being with. And you know he ain't got no intentions on being with you too. Mm-hmm. Don't try to make it seem like because if I don't open my legs to him, he won't like me. So right. And this is being an elder talking to the younger women. Mm-hmm. Them older women, man, you done did too much in this world. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, you got to pay the whole tax.
You got to pay the whole tax.
That's why I was laughing because
yeah. Now make sure JT, you give me credit for it, man. I'm going to do a show called because folks they'll steal my talking points, man.
It's documented, my guy.
It's documented, man. Yeah. They got to pay a whole tax. They got to pay a whole tax. And I'm going to tell you something, JT. I'm going to tell you something. The world don't care about the excuses of men that make bad choices in their past. Look at how many men, like they say, the women lie. Men lie for sex and women will lay down and give a man their body for love. But watch this. Let's say, JT, if you sold a kilo of crack cocaine because you were trying to pledge your loyalty and your love for your woman, you wanted to impress your woman, and then you do 25 to life. And while you were in prison, you said, listen, I had a conviction and I got taken by a man. Do you think the world gonna give you any grace? Do you think that woman, the world gonna care about that you spent 30 years of life in prison? Most folks ain't gonna care about you spending 30 years in prison. Absolutely. You're gonna have to walk the plank and you're gonna have to deal with the consequences. But see, the problem is modern women want to be liberated, but yet they don't want the consequences of being a liberated woman.
Yeah.
And what it does is keep them in a state, JT, of what's called arrested development. Shout out to my man, Black Man Unfiltered. Shout out to my boy, man. He said, "What, my boy?" Yeah, shout out to Black Man Unfiltered. And JDO, men are in love while women. That's true. No truer words were ever spoken clarity as our friend, no doubt. And that's why I tell men they have to be grounded, JT. And when you said what you said on that show, man, and I was listening to D.L. Saint. Shout out to D.L. Saint. It resonated because it was so true. I'm tired of these old narratives about Black men of that generation were bad. They were abusive. Women were in survival mode, and then the greatest offense of when a woman say, we were only with you because we were in survival mode. So that to me is highly
It's
offensive.
even worse, right?
Right, because it tells me that you never really loved the black man anyway. And I got some more clips I want to show you. So let me stop talking and get through this real quick. Hold on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's an excuse. The truth.
No, it's not the truth. It's an excuse because the men, hold on, the black men were not making money, man. We was down bad then.
I never said the black men were making a substantial amount of money to take care of himself or a household. My argument is not that. My argument is simply
right now is treating women all bad.
Yeah, that's
very, very different.
I'll concede.
I wouldn't concede to that because they make this, they paint this thing where the men were just that the men. I'm sorry, Saint, but I'm gonna just say this. They paint this thing where the man was just treating women all bad.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
That's crazy to me. That's
really
not what it was, and it did go to the point of survivalist. At the end of the day, it does change. Because when you trying to compare those days back then to the days now, you can't compare them now because we are lost. Women are lost. And guess who else is lost? Their children are lost because there's nobody to teach the children how to become conducive adults and to be able to do it together. That's why we got all this, I don't need you and all that stuff. That's why we have all of this stuff when the only thing we can talk about is money.
Hey, JT,
how much money I'm making.
I bet a bunch of y'all are wondering, what the hell is wrong with today's generation?
Jay Shaw asked the question, do any of these women qualify to be a wife? And I would argue that most don't qualify to be a wife unless you put on, and if they don't qualify to be a wife, we don't have to charge them the whole tax. Why do so many non-virgin women have standards? Is that being realistic? Oh, yeah, well, Jay Shaw, the reason why, because black men haven't raised the standard. Once we start raising the standard and getting with women to meet the standard of what we deem to be masculine men, meaning we got our stuff together, we got our mental health right, we got our money right, we got our physicality right, then once we raise the standard, they have no other choice but to capitulate or be left behind. I keep telling men, JT, all the time, women don't have no power but the power that we give them. If men could learn penis discipline, learn not to be slaves to lust, learn to speak truth to power, the women will have no other choice but to capitulate. If you can get past the shaming language and all of that, they really don't have no power in their arsenal. That's why they use shaming language and words to control men, because they can't beat us physically, most of them.
Right.
And so once men understand that, then she ain't got no power but the power that you give her. The women that are now trying to destroy men, especially white men, gave them the power because black men didn't have power.
Right.
So the white liberals that tried to destroy men and boys, men gave them the power. So if men gave them the power, men can take it back, aka these DEI incentivized programs that we're gonna talk about in a minute.
Facts.
Yeah. Hold tight.
Well, maybe it's because...
Raise your hand if you would like to be married to your baby's father. But don't you think you might need help in raising that baby from a man?
Not really. I didn't have a father. My father wasn't in the home, so, it really, male figures are not substantially important in the family.
It may be because of...
I ain't thinking about holding up for no sex, my man. If a girl, she get having a baby, kind of baby, that's on her.
And then we started raising... And
I'm F-I-E-E for nigga freak.
ultimately, they started raising.
Bro, hey, come here, man. Come here. Hey! Bro, get up, bro, go outside!
Accountability is damn near non-existent.
That was powerful, man. What prompted you, JT, to talk about that? And shout out to my man Through the Fire podcast, not Through the Fire, but Black Man Unfiltered. Send me some different times, and maybe I can tap in, man. Normally I'm working late with clients on Tuesdays, but maybe we can do a weekend show, Black Man Unfiltered. Maybe me and you and JT can do another show, but just send me some times, man. We'll tap into it. But what prompted you to talk about that briefly, man? Go ahead.
So this was during the time, I think, of the COVID-19. And I was just going through some videos. That was like, those videos was probably some of the videos I had from
previous shows I did, and I would just, it just came up to me because I'm looking at different. Man, that was just so much that was going on. I was like, dang, it's crazy because people think, and that's what it basically was. I had a conversation, and it was some folks that was I can't remember. They were I think they were baby boomers. And so what they were talking about was Generation Z and the early and the late millennials, that the way that their behavior was like it just happened. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no. This was gradual. This was a gradual thing. And so we got to talking about it. And, I said, think about this. And that what I showed, the first video that I did was from a documentary that was done in 1984, I think. So I'm like, and I did a show on that. And I was telling people, keep in mind, those were teenagers then. They're in their 60s now.
Right, that's true.
That message was back then also.
Yes, sir.
The man is insignificant.
Yep. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I got the evidence to prove it, JT. You're 100% correct. The man was insignificant. So they were already programmed, JT, to minimize masculinity. They were already programmed to rebel. They were already programmed to deliver indoctrination that men were not valuable and men were not should not be validated. Mm-hmm. And thus, this is what we have now. But we always, Brother JT, talk about what the men weren't doing of that generation. But yet we had a silent coup going on where the women were rebelling against the male leadership. Yeah. And they were rebelling against male authority. And nobody talks about that. They don't talk about those women that were rebelling against male leadership and male authority. It was a silent coup. Let me show you something real quick, because this adds to what you were talking about. And that silent coup and that silent rebellion has gotten us to where we're at now, where they don't respect leadership at all. They don't respect it at all. Hold tight. Hold tight. Let's see. Right. Right.
I don't see anything right now, bro.
Oh, you don't see that?
Nope.
All right, hold on.
I don't see anything.
All right, hold on. All right, hold on. Give me 1 minute. Give me 1 minute. Let me pull this up for you. Hold on.
That the black men is not men anymore because they have lost their dignity.
Can you see
what I'm talking about? You take a black man, if he can't afford to go down to the store and buy a quart of milk, that makes a man feel like he's not no more man. Black man come in and his wife feel that he can't go buy her a decent dress. That takes something from that man, just like you or anybody else would feel same way. But this is what the black people have to contend with. This takes some of the dignity from a man.
What you're seeing is a clip from the 1968 documentary Black on Black, filmed in South Central LA, featuring real conversations with everyday black residents. The men are explaining how their inability to find work made them feel like less of a man and sometimes forced them out of the household entirely because of the way the welfare system was structured. Welfare at the time included what was called the man in the house rule. If a father was living in the home, the family could lose benefits. So in some cases, men left not because they wanted to, but because leaving was the only way their wives and kids could survive. The women described the burdens they had to bear alone, trying to raise children and keep a roof over their heads without a man in the house. That's the tension in this clip. You're hearing the father's side, what it costs a man to lose the provider role, and the mother's side, the financial reality and mental stress of trying to hold everything together.
I think it's very rare to have both original parents in the home nowadays in time, because things, just like I say, during that time, things were so hard when I was a kid that most fathers would just desert the mother, or they were having babies so fast and they didn't know how to stop until the father would just get disgusted and just up and leave. That was the only thing he knew to do.
If a man's in the house, she can't get state aid. So this man, he has to go. He leaves voluntarily. It ain't nothing between him and his wife. He leaves voluntarily for ornaments for his kids and for his wife to survive.
Now you see back then, Brother JT, even under very harsh circumstances, men were practicing happy wife, happy life. And so when I hear these trauma slave narratives about, always about men, abusing women and men hoarding their money, that doesn't necessarily add credence to the conversation. Would you agree or disagree?
No, I definitely agree. A lot of these men didn't have money to hoard. They had to have a place to stay.
Right.
So they had to eat also. But I've also witnessed that where a man had to hide his clothes. He had to hide shoes and all these different things because the social worker was coming through.
That's right.
So I've seen that also. Not in my own house, but I've witnessed it because I got a big family. Mm-hmm. So yes, that was another misnomer when it comes down to how people talk about the 60s and the 70s. It was there. I'm like, and so I think that's what got me to a point where I was just like, hold on. We got people that didn't even come close to living in those times. Where are they getting this conversation from? And now I understand that they just get it from other people.
Yep.
That's it. And so I think that people that's my age and older, when they get on these panels, they do a disservice a lot of these people for not correcting them. Right. Because this is my thing. A lot of them was also spewing that stuff out there. Now, I understand that everyone has their own anecdotal experiences.
That's true. Very true.
However, like I said, I can speak on anecdotal, but I can also speak on my observation because guess what we were as Black folks? We were big families.
We're big families.
We were the most, and I still think, even though we're not as close-knit as we used to be, we're still the most close-knit in America.
Right.
Because we're still so much small. It's starting not to be true anymore. But you're talking about 60s, 70s, 80s?
Right.
Come on, man. Right. Have you ever seen a white family have a family reunion?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever seen them have, let's say they did. What they got? They used to have like probably about 15 people.
Right.
It was a picnic. But how did we used to do ours? We had people coming from all across the United States.
All across the United States, right.
June and July, that was a part of our tradition because we had our elders saying, y'all got to get to know each other. You know why? If you don't get to know each other, you're going to start dating each other, having children.
True. That is so true. Very true.
So even if we didn't do it like right now, we need to get back to that. People say, well, what we need to do? And I hear people say we need to start doing tradition. One of the most imperative traditions we need to do is family reunions. We have to get back to doing that. The problem is that, see, they don't have all of those folks that was out there having the committees and putting the committees together to get these things working. By the way, without social media, they're gone.
Right.
The majority of them are out of here. And now they're looking for the next generation to do it. But everybody got something to do, don't they? Everybody got an excuse on why they can't do it.
Yep. Distracted, man. They don't believe in family. They don't believe in service. They don't believe in community. And I would argue, JT, that the Black community have always been more matriarchal than patriarchal.
Absolutely.
Am I talking right?
Absolutely.
I would argue, JT, that it's always been more matriarchal. And the reason why it's been more matriarchal is because many times, like I said earlier, even though Black men of that generation did have some power, but a lot of times they capitulated to the woman. They gave the woman their checks. Yeah. Gave her the checks and let her pay the bills. Or sometimes they would listen, you ever heard these old simps say, She's the boss lady.
Yeah.
Mama, the boss lady. When granddaddy would die, right. Better half. When granddaddy would die, granddaddy worked himself like a dog many times so that grandmama can have a good life. But they don't talk about that aspect of black men that did that. They don't talk about the black men in the South that forfeited their education and they were sharecroppers and farmers so their wives could go to college and get educated. They don't talk about that, JT. They always talk about the slave trauma narratives. And I love what you just said. It's not to minimize nobody else's anecdotal experience from their ancestors. It's not. I'm not trying to minimize that. But at the same time, you can't paint this broad picture that all black men of that generation, because that's what it sounds like, were bad men.
Right. They were going through the things that they were going through at the times that they were going through it. It was just you had good and you had the bad. You had to take the good, just like what you have now. The only thing that I can say that was a whole lot different was that we were still close knit. One of the reasons is because they understood each other. Women and men back then, especially black women and black men, understood each other. And that was the whole concept of, hey, you know what? We do need this money. You know, baby, you don't have a job right now. And I know that you out there looking for jobs and all of that, but we got to go get this ADC. We got to get this aid, this state aid. And then when they go and they talk to the social worker and the social worker say, are you married? Yes, but I'm separated. Right. And it took probably a couple of thousand of women to have to get rejected. Right. They got rejected. Yes, me and my husband, they found out that shit. If he in the same house with you, then ma'am, you don't qualify because he's a able working body. Yeah, but he can't find any work, right? So then what we do? We have to start moving around the system. And one of the ways of moving around the system is saying, hey, I got to go tomorrow to this social work office and so we can get this money because we behind in our rent. Now they're going to tell me that you can't be in here. So let's set the house up. So, you know what I'm saying? Whatever. And then it just gets to a point where the man be like, I can't keep going through this shit right here. I ain't got no place to go. I'm going to be roaming the goddamn streets because they don't tell you when they were coming, right? So you have to figure out all day when they're going to show up. So guess what he doing? Over a friend's house or walking the street or whatever the hell that's going on. That's how they did it. It wasn't like, well, you got to go. I don't like you. It ended up being like that, but that started being where women started to get to a point where they was like, listen, you are not significant. This was the younger generation, the baby boomers now. The baby boomers were the ones that were saying, hey, this man is getting on my last nerve. He getting on my, all this stuff. He's a cheat. What they used to call him, who they used to call us as men back then. He's a cheat. He's a man that two-timer. All these different things. That's where the blues. Listen to the blues. Sign of the times. Right. They'll tell you exactly what a lot of these women. So then it started to fester like a cancer, right? Even the women that had functional marriages started to fall into this whole thing that men ain't shit.
Yes, right.
Even the women that were married.
Right.
And they also
very true. Very true.
So now we as men, we also get to wear this jacket where because you had a couple of men that was putting their hands on their women and beating them and all that. Now all men got to wear that jacket.
There you go, bro. That's called overgeneralization. You hit it right on the head. And that's all I'm saying. So men
started getting frustrated. You had a whole bunch of men being frustrated. And as the times went on, we started to get the bad end of the stick. About time me and you started going out there and getting married and thinking of marriage and all this stuff, it was terrible for us.
It was terrible, yeah.
It was terrible for us, but we didn't have anybody to say, hey, man, listen, might not be a good idea for you. You better know who you got. Let me see who she is. Right. We didn't have a lot of people that was doing that, right?
Right.
So you had people that wanted to just get out and they wanted to be grown and all these different things. And they think marriage was going to save them. They were getting half of the biblical teachings, right? They wouldn't even get half of it. They was getting a portion of it and they was running with that. This is what's messing us up right now, because now we didn't get the message that we were supposed to have got. I believe this. I believe that any marriage can be
fixed, at least to a point where we can maneuver in life. On the outside of abuse, physical abuse, and I guess you could say mental abuse too, but they take that. I hate that part too because they use that against us too. But the physical abuse part, I think that we can. We just got to get rid of a lot of stuff. We got to get rid of the ego part. We got to get rid of so much fear. We got to get rid of so much. And that right there is what I think takes counseling. But I think it's counseling for management, counseling for maintenance. You know what I'm saying? These type of things that we have to do. And it has to be for people that actually want to make it work. It is not a comfortable thing.
Right.
It is not a comfortable thing. So
it's not comfortable, right? You got to have emotional regulation. You got to lay aside your pride, and you got to listen to understand. And the reason why I do these conversations, JT, because for so long, black men and men in general, but especially black men, we never had a voice. We just had to be quiet and take all the abuse. I remember back in the 90s, black men won't ish. I wasn't out here slinging and getting women pregnant and lying to women. I was working hard. I was going to school. I was a stand-up guy, but we all got, put in, like you said, we had to all wear the same jacket of brokenness and wear the same jacket of being destitute. And I'm here to set the record straight. This was not all encompassing the black men of that generation. And it's a false analogy. And when you make that broad stroke that black men of that generation were the color purple narrative, it's a problem. Hold tight.
He leaves, and then the state will support him as long as he's not there.
If the white man would stop and realize and think that the black man feel the same about his wife as he feel about his, I think it would be a better understanding too. The black man don't want his wife to get up and go to work every morning and punch a time card right along with him. He wants his wife home just like the white man wants his wife at home.
What you think about that?
That's how they
black women feel.
That's how a lot of those women thought. Now that's what don't get highlighted. You get what I'm saying? She was speaking up for the black man. She was speaking up for the black man. And the thing was that because they were way more conscious of racism, right? Post and probably during Jim Crow and all these things that was happening with us, even if they wasn't, if Jim Crow wasn't there, a lot of them had to experience seeing it, right? A lot of them had to experience the backlash from what they family had endured. But you had women, black women, really, really adored black men.
They did.
They
and
really,
black
really
men
did.
were willing to go that extra mile. That's why back in the 60s, you had some of the best love music ever. But especially in the 70s with Philly soul, what do you call it? I don't know what you call it. But back in Philadelphia, the Philly soul movement, the Delphonics. My point is,
Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes.
Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. And so this dumbness that black men were these bad creatures and whatnot, that's not necessarily true. Sam Cooke, black men would serenade women. They courted black women, and black relationships were a lot better. But around Lyndon B. Johnson, around 64-ish, when black folks were on the ascension, we were doing good. We weren't perfect, but we were getting better. That's when black women got tricked. And it's been going downhill ever since. And that's why when people talking about we coming together, listen, I'm going to say something. And I said to Dr. L when we had a show, and this might be controversial, but you got to understand what I'm saying. And it's going to make a lot of sense if you're intelligent. I know you're an intelligent brother. Just because your skin color is black, it doesn't mean that your consciousness is black. The master teacher said, who is my brother? He said that he that does the will of the Father is my brother. So you can't have black excellence where you got women that got skin color like us, but their consciousness is not black. It's not for black excellence, black love, and black love together and devotion. During the DNC, they didn't vote for black families, community, they voted for themselves. And here recently, something that was highly disrespectful, Jamal Bryant said that he apologized and black women were right. And so many times they've said that the black woman is the backbone of the black community. And that's highly offensive, JT.
Yeah.
Because what they're saying is that more than 50% of black men are creating children and creating bad homes and having babies out of wedlock, but that's not true. The average black man is invisible. The highly desirous black men that are athletes, thugs, bad boys, got good hair, or the CEOs with money, those men are getting those women pregnant, but the average man is invisible.
Yeah.
How would you respond to that?
Yeah. When you look at what a woman reveres in a man, heck yeah. And you talk about during these times right now, right? Mm-hmm. So what is happening right now is that there's for one, there's a lack of consciousness. Mm-hmm. For two, people are just talking. They're not minding their tongue, right? So the man that they actually should be revering, he's not the one that they want.
Right.
Just like what you said, that man be right in front of their face. They look right past that man. The reason why I say that their consciousness is at a very low consciousness, I'm talking about women, is because they carry that through the man.
Right.
They carry their consciousness. What they say, a community could only go as high as the consciousness of their woman. Yes. The reason why is because guess what? We have to protect them and the children.
Right. And you know, when they say that the woman is the first teacher, that's a misnomer. She's the first teacher after the man has taught her. She's not the first teacher by default.
Right. It's through the man. It's through him.
It's through him. And so let me be real clear what I mean by consciousness. When God looks at human beings, he looks at things outside of skin hue. God looks at the contaminants of the heart. Like Dr. King said, don't judge a man by the color of his skin, but by the content of his character. So if her character is not the consciousness of black excellence, then she's not your woman. She belongs to herself and the government. Because if she really was for the black man, like the black sister did a couple of minutes ago, she would not put her own self-interest above the black family, the black community, black boys, and black girls. She would not vote for policies that are antithetical to black excellence. So therefore, we got to stop saying they're our women. They might be our women in skin color. They might be our women in genetic affiliation, but they're not our women in consciousness, because the master said, who is my brother? And he that does the will of the Father is my brother. God wasn't concerned about the skin color of the Jewish men of that time. He was looking at their heart. Mm-hmm. And their heart is not for the black family. Their heart is for themselves, because they always put themselves first. Like I said earlier in the show, when you get money and I get money, I think about how can I use that money to build my family and make my wife and my girls better. But when they get money, they think about themselves first.
Yeah.
They think about themselves, JT. That's all I'm saying. I had to say it, man, because nobody else will say it. They're not thinking about you. They're thinking about them. If you don't believe me, look at what Biblical Fox said. During her Ice Cube was trying to talk about coming up with a proposal, and they kept talking about black women. Yeah. Black women should never exist outside the authority and the leadership of the black man. That's why I said black men need to stop putting their lives on the line of women that are not under their leadership.
Yeah.
If you're not under my leadership, you don't, and under my authority as a man, you don't get my protection, you don't get my love, you don't get anything. Yeah. If I see you struggling, then you figure it out, because you're on your own. You're a renegade. Renegades don't get protection. The book said it, JT better than me. He said, if you be willing and obedient, then you'll eat from the good of the land. Yeah. That's what the book said, JT.
Absolutely. Yeah, because you try to sovereign yourself from your people. So no, you don't get the protection. You can't get protection, and you're not up under the same sound mind, body, and soul of that same group of people. So of course that's not going to work for you. That's why it comes from the consciousness. If you even look at it's so funny, like a woman that really reveres her husband. It's funny that she would say some things that are what they consider, and it's crazy, male centric. Mm-hmm. And you hear and you say, dang, you find out that for the most part, she has a husband. Mm-hmm. You know why? Because she's actually taking the things she learned from him and she brings it out to the world.
Right.
That's what we mean by the consciousness, because she's following that man's lead. She actually takes his word as the final. Because guess what he ended up doing? Her word is everything to me.
Right.
When we trust each other and we right on the same, man, it ain't nothing nobody on the outside can. You can't penetrate this doggone thing we got going on because we working at it every day. That's why. And then this is another thing I seen. When you have that type of a couple, they understand when we have these children, there are only hours for a short amount of time.
For a short amount of time. Yes, sir. I agree. Brother.
This is
yes,
our
sir.
contribution to the world.
It's our contribution to the world. I love that. I love that, JT. Good job, brother. I love that. I love
so that's where the you know, this whole thing of the consciousness, I just see, and I revere women. Like I can tell a woman actually not just married, because a woman can be married, but she does not follow up under her husband. She got her own way of thinking. She got her own way of whatever. She's just going through the motions, and whatever reason that she's other than the righteous reason, she's just with that man. But I can tell a woman that really adores her husband and she follows what that man say because she speaks like a man does in righteousness.
In righteousness, yes, sir. Right.
Even the way she looks, her look is not to invite men. Her speech is not to invite men to her. She's just right. She's so focused on what it is. The only thing you're going to have is conversation of her family, how she does her family.
Yes, sir.
Everything else. There's nothing that's going to be about that woman to invite you to flirt with her.
Right.
We see it as men. We would see it. We would see a woman she could be in a whole damn relationship. And she's sitting there flirting with you, saying things that's uncolorful. And you're just looking like, why is this woman, am I tripping? Is she saying things that's, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like you got to mind your tongue when you're saying certain things. Because you can give these men the wrong concept of who you are. What I found is when a woman is into her family, and especially she follows her man, there's no other way. Another man would be like, and she could be the most beautiful woman ever. He just be like, I ain't going to even try it. It ain't even going to even happen. He's single. He's available. He's all it is. He don't even have to ask, are you married? Because she already tells him. When they have a conversation with it, what most women would do, they'll tell you in a minute. Just like what I said with my husband last night when we was talking. They let you know right off the rip.
Right. Let you know off the rip. Right. They let you know off the rip. Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
But if that woman is trying to go be in between, she's going to be saying all kind of stuff that's unbecoming of a woman.
Right. And that's why I said, man, listen, you can't reward bad behavior. And when people talk about the struggles of women back then, I would argue that a percentage, not all, because I don't want to encapsulate all women of that generation of being bad. I think the women of my mom's generation were superior to the women now. They weren't perfect.
Yeah.
But from my anecdotal experience, they were better. But they've been rebelling, man. They've been rebelling, man, since the Lyndon B. Johnson administration. Let me show you this real quick, and then I'm gonna let you go. This has been a good show. Hold tight.
As a reporter for the Chicago Daily Defender, and as a black woman married to a black man, I've become deeply aware of the effects of this new black revolution on the relationship between black man and black woman. I see it among my own friends, and I also see it in my home. But the most revealing and the most vocal statements about what the new black man expects from the new black woman came when I met with a group of young unmarried friends one Saturday afternoon.
I think that what's happening in America as far as black men, black women is concerned is that there's a revolution within a revolution. We are fighting our own woman. Our woman will not allow us to emerge as black men.
That goes back to what we said, JT. You and I were babies back then. I was probably one, and you were probably you were a puppy.
Yeah.
And like Gregory Scotland said, this was around the set. They've been fighting for this. Listen, you and I had nothing to do with this, JT. But they started rebelling after '64 around the Lyndon B. Johnson administration with this feminism. And it's always been in them, JT. It's been in their nature, but they just didn't act on it. Because black women of my grandmother and my great-grandmother's generation, they feared God, JT.
Yes.
They feared God. And that's why they didn't go against order. That's why they didn't have a problem with saying, I honor and obey you. That's why black men of that generation, JT, didn't mind courting black women. That's why black men of that generation, JT, didn't mind playing Harold Melvin in the Blue Notes. That's why they didn't mind showing women love and adulation. It's not because women of that generation were perfect. Because see, back then, women of that generation also, when Sam Cooke would come to the churches, The Christian women were throwing their panties on the stage for Sam Cooke.
Right.
So it ain't nothing new under the sun, but they were better women.
Yeah.
And they didn't mind serving and honoring their men, and men reciprocated by courting the women. That's why I say, JT, Gen X was the last normal generation. It was the last normal. It was the last generation where things were normal, JT.
Yeah.
Where we played outside as kids, we courted women, we wrote love letters, we were playing music, even though some of the music was simp. I think all men are simp to some degree. But women were better women back then.
Mm-hmm.
They were more qualified women. They were worthy of being treated special back then, but they're not worthy of being treated special now. They want to be treated special without being special. Keep listening. Hold tight.
No, but our black women who has been put in this role of aiding white America, white structure, and castrating the black male has continued doing this. She cannot live with us. It's not that we can't live with her.
Are you blaming us? Are you saying that it's our fault that this happened?
No, I'm not blaming black America women. I just said that I'm blaming the system. They are victims of the system like the black male.
Well, why do you say that we are castrating you? You say that you want to be the leaders. Okay, well, what about the black professional woman? Are you saying that there should be no black professional woman? Are you trying to deny black women the right to be creative, the right to function?
We're not asking for you to take a back seat. We're saying that you have got to be astute enough and can view the situation well enough where you just automatically know what your role is and step back. And whenever you want to have that aggressive thing, this is the thing that the young black man today is not going to tolerate. My old man tolerated it because his old man tolerated it. It came up for years and years and years. But today, the young black man is not going to take it. He's going to be out there as a leader. White America has used black women to keep.
Now think about what he just said, JT. JT, did you hear what he just said?
Yeah,
JT, did you not just hear what that man said, JT?
Absolutely.
You see how the story is not being balanced, JT.
It's the same conversation.
But not only the same conversation, what did he say? He said the men of that generation, those men were listening to their women.
Yeah.
They were listening to Happy Wife, Happy Life, a lot of the men of that generation. So when you hear these slave trauma narratives about adding nuance, it was a matriarchy back then.
Yes.
Even though granddaddy had power, and even though granddaddy was a man, some of those black women of that generation bossed their husbands.
Yes.
And so, like the man say, it was a revolution within a revolution. Did you hear what he just said? That's why these slave trauma narratives don't make any sense. Yeah. And ever since you and I weren't born on up to the 90s, they've been rebelling against black men and black authority and black leadership and black excellence because they're out of order. Did you hear what she just said? She put her black men don't care about you having no career, but she put her career and her own autonomy above the leadership of that man and black excellence. Go ahead, brother. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. You cooking, bro. I'm telling you that conversation, and this is what I want people to also take in. This was over 50 years ago. They are having this conversation. Over
50 years ago. Yes, sir.
These guys back then was the young ones. They
were the young ones.
They saying the same thing that these young dudes are saying now. Y'all going through and doing all, but the young black man ain't gonna have it. We ain't gonna take it. They're saying the same thing. The women are saying the same thing from over 50 years ago. This was the thing. They were having this conversation in good faith. So this is the thing about that documentary. It was at a point where they were like, we got to do a study. The same thing that we're doing now. It's kind of like we're reinventing the wheel, but we're doing it in a more of a larger global way now. This was just something that was done probably for a network or whatever. But we have to start, if we really want to start moving forward, we have nothing but these type of studies and documentaries that we do have to study and bring it to what we are now. Keep in mind, folks, these folks right now that you're looking at, which was young, 19, 18, 22 years old, they're 70 plus years old.
They said, right. Very true, brother.
And they were the young ones talking the same thing. Now we can move. Listen, we can push the narratives out of the way that don't need to be there and keep the ones that we have and then make new narratives now. Because we have to look back instead of saying what was happening, having that doggone slavery it was hurting us and all of that. No, go back and look.
Mm-hmm.
They wasn't talking about it like people are talking about it right now. They have no idea. No idea. We can go back, man. We can have really, really good conversations, y'all.
Yeah, I agree. And shout out to the young lady, Sherelle Cabri. You know, there are some young women, man, that are coming in. They want to learn and they want to adjust. So shout out to those women. But we know that the majority are not going to. And let me tell you something I learned also, JT, for some, not all. Shout out to the young lady. Women by nature are survivalists. As AI continues to proliferate.
Yeah.
As these jobs that they were given by DEI, because what they don't understand, you accuse the black man of not having power, and you want the black man to make money, but yet you were handpicking, giving jobs that took away the power of the black man, like the black man was not given jobs back then.
Yeah.
So the black man wasn't given jobs back then due to Jim Crow racism. The black man is not given jobs now because they're giving you the jobs over the black man. Mm-hmm. And you minimize his masculinity based on his ability to provide. Instead of saying, you know what, I'm going to use this DEI job to get brothers in. I'm going to use this DEI job to put money aside for my family, for my man. But they don't do that. They only focus on themselves. What do you think about what I said? And I'm going to get back to this video.
Absolutely. That's the part about being hard-headed. That's why I said if you just intend on just keeping and leaning on your own understanding, this is what happens. Mm-hmm. These are the things that's happening right now. We can see it in real time now.
Right. And you know what's so powerful? Shout out to my man, my brother Tim Howell. What's so powerful about it, JT? It just reconfirms what I always known. Mm-hmm. We always been a matriarchy. These slave narratives that they are talking about, trauma narratives, they did exist, but they did not exist to the proportion that they're trying to perpetuate. Did they exist? Yes. But I don't believe they existed to the nature they're trying to perpetuate. And not only that, a lot of black men of that generation were quiet. They didn't say nothing. Big Mama ran the house. Big Mama told him what to do. He brought his check home, but they don't tell you that granddaddy brought his check home. They don't tell you that granddaddy was a sharecropper working for the white man, not giving jobs. That was highly hard on the psyche of a man. I saw my daddy one time, JT, and I love my daddy to death. My dad is 83 years old. And I remember, JT, my dad had 4 kids, but he would always fight hard for his family. My daddy thought he was going to lose the house. And I saw my dad go in the woods, and my sister followed. She's dead now, bless her heart. Mm-hmm. And my daddy was crying because my dad didn't know how he was going to take care of his family. And do you know the pressure that's on a man when he don't know how he can take care of his family? He can't provide. I lost my job one time, man, and I felt less than as a man. And a lot of those men felt less than because not only the men of that generation were called boys, not only were the men of that generation called the N-word, a lot of those men of that generation, depending on where they lived at, they had to work twice as hard as their white counterparts.
Yes.
To prove their worth and to prove their masculinity, especially you coming from Detroit, working in the auto industry, working for Detroit. A lot of men from the South went up to Detroit, to the North, to get those factory jobs. Yeah. And sometimes that factory job could take care of a whole family. But when that man lost his job, his self-esteem was gone. And so she didn't build his self-esteem back up, JT. Mm-hmm. She didn't build him up. She told him he wasn't good enough. And she leveled up and went to another man many times. Mm-hmm. But imagine, JT, if you became a millionaire and you got rid of your wife and said that, she's old now, even though that woman, there are some men that do it. There are some men that do it, but I don't think most men do it because she no longer serves her purpose. Imagine black men say, you're not pretty, you can't cook anymore, and you give your body away to too many men that, you just don't, you don't qualify. But when a woman say that, we don't have to survive anymore, basically tells me that you never cared about black men or the black family in the first place. You only care about yourself. Shout out to Tim Howell for these 5, Brother Tim Howell for these 5 memberships. Thank you, Brother Tim. Brother Tim, thank you, man, for tapping in. Thanks for the membership, man. Much love and blessings, man. I really appreciate that. Brother Tim, for those 5 memberships. Shout out to Brother Tim real quick. Hold tight. As he, Gregory Scholar, and my man, Ray Johnson are #1 sponsors of the stream. Thank you. going to have to do a part 2. I'm going to play a little bit of this deal. This has been good, man. We're going to have to do a part 2, man.
Okay.
So we can finish breaking this down. Hold tight.
The black male in his place. And you're still aiding him by saying, well, we are qualified. We want to work. We can help.
Okay, how are you going to reprogram men so that they don't let us take over what's supposed to be their responsibility? And men that I have had dealings with, they are perfectly willing to sit back and let us do anything we want to.
I don't think that you have to reprogram men. I think you have to reprogram women.
No, you have to reprogram the man so that he will forcefully take what belongs to him, because you know women, as long as we can get, we're gonna get, and it's part of our being. We're going to do anything to you that you let us, whether we want to or not.
You don't want to live on the level of income that I can afford you and love me on the basis of that. You want to always be aspiring to have all those things.
You see my point, JT? She only respects power and strength. Did I not just say that earlier?
You just said it earlier.
That's all she respects is power and strength. She just said it. They were saying that when you and I were embryos, man.
Yes. How do you reprogram? And she's asking this man, how do it's like, how do you do it? He looking like, what are you asking me for? We just having a conversation. But she said it and she told the truth. I'm glad that she did, though. That was my thing would have been, she said we can do whatever we want to do if you let us do whatever we want to do, which means that if you don't have the power,
right,
you can't stay here. I'm going to use you until you used up, and I'm moving on to the next one.
Right. And JT, let me tell you something. Even in heaven, power, meaning money and status, it still don't mean nothing.
Right.
It's still, when I hear these guys say, you need to pay all the bills so she can rest in her femininity. No generation of women had all their bills paid so they can rest in their femininity. All women back then worked. That was just part of the struggle.
There wasn't no resting.
There was no resting in no femininity. And guess what, JT? They worked for the white woman, they worked for the white man, and they still came home and cooked and took care of their families. And the men still worked, my daddy told me, from sun up to sundown on the farm for their families.
Yes.
And it was just part of duty. That's what made the marriages stronger, JT, because duty superseded their emotional volatility.
Absolutely.
It superseded. But this generation, they don't believe in duty. They believe in their feelings first. They said they want an emotionally intelligent man, but they're not emotionally intelligent women, because emotionally intelligent women know how to tap into a man to get what they want from that man. So they're not emotionally intelligent. They keep asking for emotion, but they're not emotionally intelligent.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. One of the reasons is because they don't care about that man they're with.
They don't.
Think about this, and I know we're getting ready to shut it down, but I got one for you.
Go ahead, brother.
Remember, women and men, when they were out in the world and working, they didn't have the access that they have with each other right now.
That's right. They did. That's true.
When they talked, they talked when they got home.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we have all of these tools where women can have the access to the men, they would sit back and text a man some bull that they can talk about when they get home. But that man is working, and she go out here because she was in deep thought, and she was, I think I just need to let you know, blah, 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 this and that, while he's at work.
Right.
It affects that man when he's at work and you giving him, it knocks us off, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Or you call him and y'all arguing about something. That's not being intelligent, emotionally intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
If you have to talk to him, you first and foremost, make sure that you make time for that. Mm-hmm. Make sure you don't just do that. You don't do that stuff right at the spur of the moment because you got access to them. Mm-hmm. Look at how women get mad at men and they say, well, why haven't I talked to you all day? You went all day without talking to me. I was at work. You don't have lunch. Right. You ain't got lunch. You couldn't, you know what I'm saying? It's like, wait a minute. Why? We can talk when we get home. Matter of fact, it makes it better for us to be able to tell what our day was. Right. How was your day? We be able to greet each other. We be able to, first and foremost, I can't wait to get home to you. Mm-hmm. But if you done gave me so much stress, I'm like, man, remember what dudes used to do?
They have to smoke something, drink something. That is the realest thing ever. They have to sit in the car to prepare themselves to go in the house.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so if that's the case, then if black women were trapped back then due to economics, black men are equally trapped now due to economics and due to adversive policies such as family court, no-fault divorce, and also paternity fraud. Men are trapped too. Cornell Smith, shout out to my brother Cornell Smith, wrote a book called Trapped by Law or something like that. And men are trapped. And men have been trapped by the emotional wiles of their women. There were women back then that were psychologically manipulating their Medea is the typical strong, independent black woman that challenged grandpa. Am I right or wrong?
No, she was definitely it. If you notice, she was singled. She was always having problems with the law. She was having problems with money, but she always had something to tell somebody else about their own business. Basically, she was meddling in everybody else's business. She could tell them all about themselves, but when it come down to her, she all screwed up. Her whole life is screwed up.
Right.
That's crazy.
Right.
And that is the typical woman.
Right. That was the typical
at that time, you know.
Of that time,
yeah.
a lot of matriarchal women were like Medea. Sad. My aunt is like that. She about 6 feet tall, 5'9", 5'11". She slumped about 5'10", and she got a slight mustache, and she was bossy.
Bossy, and you still love him.
Boss. She will never boss me because she'll get this work.
Right.
But I stand up to women like that. I ain't gonna damn let no woman boss me and tell me.
But the family still loved them, didn't they? They still went around. They still came. But at the end of the day, if say something about Medea if you want to. She gonna put a bat upside your head. That was their mentality. That's what's crazy. And it's like, no. And they used to pride themselves off of being somebody that gets you told, or priding themselves off of somebody that's gonna, do destructive things. It's like,
I told you. Right. I told you. That's what they say. I told you, with their hand on their hip.
Yeah.
Trying to prove how tough they were. I'm gonna play a little bit more of this, man. This has been powerful, man. I got another show for you, JT. Maybe you can bring Brother Don on the next time. And maybe Black Man Unfiltered can come through.
Oh, yeah. My brother definitely show up, right?
He can tap in, man. But I'm gonna play a little more of this. But I got another powerful show coming up. It's gonna prove my point that this all, it goes back, JT, when you and I were little boys back in the 70s. And they said, what a little girl's made of? Sugar and spice.
And everything.
And everything nice. That's what little girls are made of. So men and boys have been conditioned to minimize our own feelings, to minimize our worth, to aggrandize her feelings, and to see ourselves as less than, because little boys are made of puppy dog tails and snails. That's what little boys are made of. We were made of trash, and they were made of benevolence. And so it's all by design. It's by manipulation. And it gets worse when you got boys being raised in homes where they don't have strong fathers that teach them, JT, that they have inherent worth, that they have inherent value, and they don't have to settle. That's why black men tend to marry women with kids, because that's all they know.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's all they know. But my daddy said, and the men of that generation said, they would never look at a woman that had no kids.
Yeah.
If a woman had kids back then, she had to be a stellar woman.
Yeah.
She had to be if her husband died, that's something totally different. A widow maybe got some respect, but this women having babies out of wedlock with 3 and 4 and 5 men, no, you got to be stellar, sweet. And I would argue a lot of men didn't even look at those women back then.
Right.
Because they were seen as a provider. I'm gonna play a little more of this, and I'm gonna let you go. But we gotta run this one back, man. This was
That's a part of the great middle class white American society, and because I can't deliver these things to you, you say that you are not a man.
I don't measure a man by how much money he can bring home. I measure a man by how he treats me. Whether when I'm tired and I'm sick and I'm scared, he's there.
For these women, the men are there. But with the feeling of racial pride has come new conflicts and new problems. Across America, they meet to discuss what black awareness means to their families and to them as black women of today.
There have been a lot of myths created about the black family. We all recognize that. And one of the most pernicious myths is the myth of the black matriarch.
It was not like
the black woman has not been a matriarch in the sense that it has been defined thus far. And thank God research, and I hope black research, is being done now to reverse that kind of thing. In fact,
The black woman has been a woman at the head of a household, not by choice, but by necessity. And often, that's right, and more often than not, she is not a strong, matriarchal, aggressive, domineering figure. She is a woman in search of a man. But this story has not been told.
The prejudiced society created what we have now. So that's what we were. Okay, we have a revolution going on. Well, what kind of the revolution?
We're in an evolution. I think the revolution is yet to come.
Yeah, it's the well, this thing
we
will
keep
say
tossing
the word revolution around lightly.
It's extremely important for black history and culture to be transmitted from generation to generation. And the best way, the most effective way that this has always been done is through the family, acting as the primary unit of social organization. And I think one reason why it has not been done with black people is because of the destruction done to our family life. So this certainly has to be one function of the black marriage, to begin to reemphasize and to pick up the thread of Afro-American history and culture that has been left off generations ago when Africans were bought, sold into slavery, when the family unit was purposely destroyed.
Most middle-class homes, quote middle-class homes, like I don't even get caught up in that bag, you go into will have some copy of anybody, any white artist, I don't even have to name anybody, instead of the works of black artists.
All right, we're going to stop it here. Let's break this through, man. Very good show, man. I really enjoyed chopping up with you. I enjoyed your brother D.L. Sink. We need to do another Gen X special, man. I love the insight. Man, what month is your birthday, man?
October. October the 8th.
That makes sense. You're intellectual, man. I know why I like you, man. I don't live by the zodiac, but Libras are very intelligent, man. Dr. Donda, he's a Libra. Dr. T.S. Johnson. And like I said, I don't live by the zodiac. The Bible says divination, but you're a sapiophile, which means you love knowledge. You're a thinker. And I Leos and Libras, we get along, man, because we it's air to fire, man, and it's combustible, man. And that's why this conversation is so good, man. I love being around intelligent brothers. My baby's born in October, October 1st. And she loves to ask questions, but y'all tend to think. Y'all analyze, and y'all look at things from multiple parameters.
Yeah.
But she said something that was very profound before we end this show. She said that they wanted these strong, independent women and wanted to take over. And I believe that they were compromised the most, but it impacted the black family and community. And like the Quiet Storm said, and I've always said it, when I hear people talking about bringing things back to the way it was, it's not going to happen in our lifetime, brother. This cancer has been metastasizing since the early 60s or mid 60s, and it's getting worse. It's gotten worse. And so generations are going to have to die off. If Jesus Christ don't crack the sky and the rapture don't take place, which I do believe in that, it's gotten worse. What did you think about what she said, man? And give me your closing comments overall for the whole show, brother. Go ahead.
So one of the things that I pay attention to is the state that they were in. So from what I've seen in the documentary, all of those women were talking with their significant others. They all had that was the dopest thing ever, because I think that's one of the issues. That's one of the things that's missing on a lot of these panels that we have right now in current times. So they're talking about their struggles while in the relationship that they're in. I think it was profound to have that. I watched it, that documentary, and a couple of other ones that go with it. And that's one of the things that get me to try to look at things from multiple angles. And it brings up really good conversations when we are actually saying, hey, this is really what's going on. This is the snapshot of what was really going on. And then we can talk from there. But if we keep going with these narratives and running to, you see how they went to the whole thing of slavery, and then they got in and they got out. That's what it was. What would have happened when we on these panels? They talk about slavery and we stay right there. Then we get to talk about argue about other stuff. So this is how we move forward. I love the way that you have the setup. The one-on-ones, 3, 2, and men that actually have different ways on how we think is dope, bro. I really appreciate that.
Yes, sir, man. I appreciate it.
I love the
Yes,
conversation. I definitely, like I said, what I told you before, once we got to talking, I do my homework. So I went, looked at some of your stuff, seen the people that you had on there. I was because it makes no sense for me to be talking with you and I don't actually have a synopsis of who you are. You know what I'm saying?
No, I respect that. Yeah.
You're 100% respected by me, man. Definitely want to do some more work with you, brother. It was a pleasure. Love the conversation, man. Most definitely.
Man. Listen, man, when I heard you say that we're lost and I saw that little snap, I said, I got to get that brother on, man. And DL Saint, he did a great job too, man. So listen, man, good show, man. Let's do a part 2, man. We'll have DL Saint come do, man. And we're going to break down the theories. And I was so impressed. I was listening. I was like, that boy good. I was like, that boy good. When you were talking about anecdotal evidence, I said he's a thinker. I can rock with him because I can tell by how you think. You don't just think on surface. You think analytically and critically.
Yeah.
And that's something a lot of folks don't have anymore, man. They lack objective. They lack critical thinking. They only think on surface. And like you were saying, the women back then, even though they disagreed, they still had a healthy respect for their men. And so this thing has metastasized from the 70s where there was some rebellion and some sedition. It's out of control now. It's radically out of control. And for the younger generation of men, shout out to Gen Z, like I always say, man, JT, I don't hate black women. I don't hate women. I hate the behavior. And I hate what they become. And somehow they cannot separate bad behavior from how we feel about them in general. But anyway, good conversation, man. God bless you, man. We'll do a part 2.
Yeah.
I'll see you soon, man. Be good, brother.
Absolutely, man. Thank you.
All right, brother. All right.
Yes,
all right.
sir.
All right. All right, guys. I'll shout out to my man, brother JT at What We Know Podcast. Shout out to him. Shout out to that dear brother. I'm going to drop him down. And guys, this was a good one, man. We're going to end this show, guys. Shout out to the #1 sponsor. Thank you for the young lady, Shira Cabri. Thank you, dear. If you ever want to do a show with the fellas and tap in, Shira, feel free to tap in. I love to hear a woman's perspective. And shout out also to the #1 sponsors of the stream. Shout out to Gregory Scotland for the 45, and shout out to Ray Johnson for the 30, and shout out to Revelator Spirit of Variance and Difference for 5. Shout out to Brother Revelator. Thank you, Revelator. I apologize if I forgot you earlier, man. I appreciate it, Brother Revelator. So this has been a good show, guys. We're going to end it here. I will see you guys soon. And I'm going to go back and clip some of this stuff up, man. I'm going to clip it up. And I'm going to clip this thing up. So anyway, guys, thank y'all for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I didn't mean for the show to go this long, man. But guys, I'll be seeing you guys soon. Y'all take care. All right? So we're going to end this stream. And I'll see you guys soon. Follow me, baby. The elders are old and out of touch. I have the power to help you become the better version of yourself. Listen to me. I know what's best for you. I am the Snake Whisperer.